The following is a presentation of Sertoba Media and Comey Media Incorporated. Will the Aaron Rodgers saga ever end? And which team is going to pick Travis Hunter in next week's NFL draft? That and a review of week 3 of the UFL and a preview of week 4 of the same league coming up. And it is Total Football Talk. It starts right now. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to episode number 80. That's right, 80 of Total Football Talk. Hard-hitting news, grind, action, and fun, just the way you like it. Well, I am one of the co-hosts of this program, Cole Johnson, a.k.a. the Mad Scientist and the EP of all EPs. However, though, I am not alone in this venture. No. I am joined by the other co-host of this wonderful program. You may know him as Mr. Commander's Grading Report. You may know him as Mr. D. Will in the Evening. You also may know him as Mr. In or Out Sports Debate. The bandit joins me on this program each and every week. It is D. Willie, a.k.a. Drew Willingham. How you doing, my brother?
I'm doing great out here in these streams out here today, brother. Glad to be here for episode number 80. We are here on a new day, a new time, ready to rock and roll. We got the action for the NFL, the action for the UFL, and the best part is I'm here with you, ready to rock and roll. Let's get this thing started.
Well, I feel the same way, my brother. And since you said let's get it started, let's do that. Opening drive, please.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989. On two. Ready? Great.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see right before your very eyes, we're going to review last week's action. That's right. You had the Renegades going to Birmingham, taking on the Stallions. You had the Brahmas and the Panthers in Detroit. You had the Defenders in St. Louis going to town in St. Louis. And you had the Roughnecks and Showboats in Memphis. Goodness gracious. My head hurts just thinking about it. Oh, Lord. But let us begin. Excuse me. With the Renegade Stallions. Now you all may think, well, you had the Stallions who they limped into Birmingham for their opening home game for the year. At 1-1, you had the Renegades who, well, they had 2 home wins. The second one eking out one over the Roughnecks. And this was another eker. The final score was 10-9 in favor of the Stallions. And, well, was it a bad game? It was a game. For instance, Matt Corral, he was 19 of 41 for 255 yards. He had a touchdown. He did throw a Joe Powell INT. He also had 4 carries for 24 yards. On defense for the Stallions, you had A.J. Thomas. He had 6 solo tackles. You also had Kayava Tazino, DeMarcus Gates, and Bradley Anai. Each of them had 5 solo tackles. And that pretty much was it for the Stallions. For the Renegades, Luis Perez, he did throw the ball a lot, 26-38, 208 yards. And on defense for them, Ajeen Harris with 6 solo tackles. You had Miles Dorn and Charlie Thomas III, each with 5 solo tackles, and Thomas III also had a tackle for loss. I mentioned the Joe Powell INT. And all of the 9 points came off the leg of one Lucas Havrisik. That's right, 3 of 3 from field goal range. Now, your thoughts, sir, on the first home game for the Stallions, the defending UFL champs, with a 10-9 victory over the once undefeated Renegades.
I felt like this was more of a defensive matchup between the two, where just a little bit more of a beatdown from the defensive lines on the opposing offensive line, back and forth throughout this game. I mean, both offenses just underperformed altogether. I mean, yes, it's the perfect thing to say out there, Melvin. I see your comment. Thanks for tuning in. Luis Perez, 26-38 for 208 yards, had a lot of pass completions, like you said, but didn't really do much with it. There wasn't really much of a result of all those completions and the moving down the field, even though that would suggest that he had his way with the defense, with the completions.
Right.
The other defense kept him from scoring, So
Right.
when you think about that as a whole, for this team altogether, the Renegades were pretty hot the first 2 weeks. I mean, the Stallions, stopped one of the 2 undefeated teams from the first 2 weeks. Well, there was 3. Of course, the matchup between the Battlehawks and the Defenders. But when you think about the Battlehawks and the Defenders game and the Renegades going against the Stallions, we expected by the end of last weekend to still have 2 undefeated teams. We couldn't have the 2 undefeated teams from the Defenders and the Battlehawks, but we expected to have another one in the Renegades based on the way the Stallions had played throughout the first 2 weeks. They were pretty lucky to be 1-1 coming into week 3, and it was a surprise to me, even though we do have an upset of the week in the Defenders and the Battlehawks that we're going to talk about a little bit. This right here, the Renegades pretty much upset me this past week because I expected them to win, and it didn't come through the way that I thought that they would. Matt Corral didn't have numbers of a quarterback that would lead you to victory. When you think about how he had, 255 yards, great, cool, give you a high five, but you had a touchdown and an interception, okay? You were 19 of 41. And there's people out there, all right? I saw a video last week on Instagram.
Oh, Lord.
There's people out there that want to give you a hard time about analytics. I'm going to sit here and tell you that, you can at some points. But when you look at the play and you break it down, the fact that you didn't complete half of your passes, less than half of your passes. You ran the ball around looking like a dumpster pelican, 2 on 4 carries, okay?
Oh.
When you ran, it made my stomach hurt when I watched you run.
Oh, wow.
And I'm sitting there eating a snack, watching you on the field. Yes, I am the CFA, the chubby fat expletive, sitting on the couch watching said game. You know what that A stands for. I'm just being polite out here in these streams. CFA, not Chick-fil-A, chubby fat expletive. Okay, out here eating potato chips, watching the game, Cole Johnson. Okay, you know it, and I know it. And the way you're running around, you're scrambling around, you're making my stomach turn. It hurt. It made me feel some type of way, and not the some type of way I wanted to feel, okay?
My gosh.
And not the other some type of way that makes people act like snowflakes. It made me feel the type of way that my stomach was turning, okay?
Oh,
Stop running the ball, Matt Corral. That is not why you won the game. Now, back to the game. The reason why you won was your defense. Look at what A.J. Thomas, and you said his name beautifully. In the moment, I'm drawing a blank how you say his name. You know exactly what I'm talking about. What is his name with the 5 solo tackles? He did a great job.
Oh, let me see. Talking about Kiava Ticino?
Yes, because I was about to go, so I didn't know what his name was. So looking at that, and Mr. Gates and Mr. Anahi, all of them out there for the defense did their job, and that's why the Stallions won this game by 1 point in the end. It sure as expletive wasn't Matt Corral, and it sure wasn't the fault, though, at the same time of the other team with Luis Perez. It wasn't like he was a turnover machine, okay?
Right.
So he just had altogether, it was the perfect statement that Melvin said. It was they underperformed because as a whole, the team did, because you would expect more out of that offense. It's the Stallions defense that contained the Renegades offense, and the Stallions defense was a big part of why they won the past 3 championships between the USFL and the UFL, even though they had a supplemental offense to keep them afloat. And that's what's been their struggle over the past 3 weeks. So good on the Stallions to figure it out for this one to edge out the win and to now tie the Renegades with a 2-1 record, but they still have a long way to go for this season.
Agreed. This could be the type, talking about Renegades, this could be the type of performance where if you don't know the pulse of your team, it could be taken one of 2 ways. It could be, okay, so you had the measuring stick game. You already had your 2 wins. You go on the road, you play against the defending champs in their building, and you hung with them. Although you still took one of these. You still took one wonderful, spectacular, beautiful defensive posture.
Got him.
You still hung with the defending champs. Now, they could take it one of 2 ways. They could take it as, man, we were on a roll and we had 2 wins in our bank. All we had to do was just basically play 1 point better than the defending champs, and we would have really been something. But now we're deflated. Or they could take it as, we hung with the champs, although we took it on the chin. This might be still a springboard, and it may be a loss, but it might be one of those moral victories where if we do face them later on in the season, definitely if we face them in our building, I think we can get them. And if we face them in the playoffs, I think we can get them then. So it depends on how the Renegades think how this game is. For the Stallions, man, offensively, they need to get going. Defensively is basically where they're hanging their hat. And they would have won week 1 if it weren't for the offense being all, but the defense is why the Stallions are hanging in there. But I think offensively, they have to get back to what they were doing best last year. I mean, they were explosive on the ground, and they even had some explosion in the air too, along with the fact that the defense was one where they would shut you all the way down. But this year, the defense is still one where you have to say they're championship caliber. The offense is not even close. And this game could have been an L for them, but it wasn't. But both teams are 2-1. The Renegades fall to 2-1. The Stallions, the defending champs of the UFL, they improve to 2-1. All right, the next game. Let me see if I can think of it. How was it that my brother said it is? Oh yeah, it is one of these. In unveiling the dumpster fire game of the week. That's right, the Roughnecks traveling from Houston all the way to Memphis to play the Showboats. And it was an ugly game. Although the final score wouldn't reflect it, the play most certainly did. The Roughnecks eked out an 18-17 victory over the Showboats. The game was not as entertaining as the final score would have you think. Anthony Brown started off things for the Roughnecks, 8 of 15 for 40 yards, 3 carries of 21 yards. Got lifted for Nolan Henderson, who was 10-11 for 80 yards and a touchdown. He also had 3 carries of 15. On defense for the Roughnecks, Marvin Moody was just tackling everything that was not nailed down. 7 solo tackles. He also had a tackle for loss. Leon O'Neal and Keenan Isaac helped themselves to E.J. Perry picks. each of them having interceptions. And Chris blew it 2 of 3 off his leg from the field goal variety. And speaking of which, for the Showboats, E.J. Perry, 13 of 20, 131 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions. One to O'Neal and one to Isaac. He had a carry for 6 yards. On defense with them, Keaton Ellis had 6 solo tackles, and he had 2 tackles for losses. Now, your thoughts on this particular game, which, how am I going to put it? How did Jim Morrison put it? Oh, yeah, the Roughnecks broke on through to the other side.
Beautiful. You know, when it comes to the field goal kicker, Chris blew it. He sure did.
And he had to find a reason to do it. That's fun.
You know that I had to find some way within this segment to click that button. You just know it. It's coming. And it did right here. It wasn't coming for Chris Blewett through that field goal post, okay? It was going wide to the side. That's what we're going to say for the day. Wide to the side. Chris Blewett, not to one, not to the other, because he is magnetized with that football to one or the other. Blew it to the side. That's what he does.
To the side.
You.
Oh my gosh.
One of the reasons why your coach is no longer there. And we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. The coach who was part of a team that went to the Super Bowl. A coach that is trying to find his footing and get back into the game of coaching. And you blew it, Chris. Chris blew it. You did. So did good old E.J. Perry out here in the football field. You didn't get it done. And that is why the Memphis Showboats at this time are still defeated.
What?
Still defeated.
What?
They don't have a win.
What?
This was a dumpster fire. Oh, yes, it was.
What?
You know it, and I know it.
You can't handle the truth.
Come on now. You guys got to handle the truth. It's not that bad out here.
Hell to the no, no. Hell no, to the no.
Shake it up now.
You guys want to hear a fucking story?
The story is this. Ever since watching the Memphis Showboats be brought back to life, they have been absolutely terrible. Damn! You name a player from the Memphis Showboats that you know. You tell me off the top of your head that you don't know as a downright dumpster pelican.
Oh, my brother, testify.
Because right here and now, we are talking about a Memphis Showboats team that has been addicted to taking... Oh, and 3. That's the way it's got to be for this team, known as the Memphis Showboats.
Oh my gosh. It is. I have to thank you for making the Showboats entertaining with that bit there. Otherwise, I would be thinking that I was watching maple syrup running uphill in Vermont during February. I mean, oh gosh, it is painful to watch the Showboats. Painful to watch them. And I thought the same for the Roughnecks, but at least they're battling. Not saying that they're world beaters, but
They're beaters of something, all right.
Oh Lord, at least they're competitive. Oh my gosh, at least they are competitive. Oh my gosh. And now they got a victory, and I'm happy for the Roughnecks. Hopefully they can put it together. Hopefully they can find something. Because the quarterback position, that's going to be continuous problems for them. You can say the same for the Showboats because, well, E.J. Perry, he's reminding me of somebody, but I can't put my finger on it. But I'll talk about it a little later.
Yes. But when it comes to the Showboats, they just need to
Stop it. Get some help.
they're pretty
Yes.
bad.
Yes.
We'll
Unfortunately,
touch more on them a little later.
we're going to touch more on them later. Yes. Unfortunately, they fall to 0-3. The Roughnecks, they fall from the defeateds or the winless, and now they have a victory of their own. So hopefully they can bounce from that and propel themselves further. All right. And I think we're now at the time where we announce our That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We are at the upset of the week, where the DC Defenders, they play 2 home games, so they decided to travel this past week to the Heartland, and they went to St. Louis to play the undefeated Battlehawks and the best home field advantage in the UFL. And unfortunately, that home field advantage did not matter. And why did it not matter? The Defenders just simply had their way with the Battlehawks 27-15. The game wasn't even that close. In fact, the Defenders basically yawned their way to this game, to this victory, and basically played with their food, while the Battlehawks simply did not have an answer at all for what the Defenders defensively threw at them. But even though you have this 27 points, Jordan Ta'amu, still uneven in the performance realm for quarterbacks. 17 of 37, 3 touchdowns, 2 INTs. He also had to carry for -3 yards. But Ty Scott, wide receiver, did his thing. 3 receptions, 85 yards, and 1 of those wonderful touchdowns. You had Andre Mintz on defense for the Defenders with 2 sacks, 2 tackles for losses, 2 fumble recoveries and 2 fumble forces, and a fumble recovery. You had Matt McCrane, who was 3 of 4 from field goal range. His long was from 50 yards. And then we get to the Battlehawks, Manny Wilkins. 16 of 29, 147 yards. He did have a touchdown, but he threw an interception to Sam Kiss, an interception to Michael Ojimiudia, and an interception to Willie Drew Jr. He was making it rain on the DC Defender secondary, but he also had 4 carries of 39 yards. Jacob Salas. Now, you would think that the running back would have some running totals. He only had 7 carries for a yard, but he did have a wonderful performance. He had 7 receptions for 91 yards in the air. On defense, he had some performance there. Nate Meaders, 5 solo tackles. Cameron Kelly, he did have a pick on Jordan Ta'amu. Chris Payton-Jones, he had the other pick of one Mr. Ta'amu. And not to be outdone, Rodrigo Blankenship, 3 of 3 from field goal range, the longest, I think, field goal of the year thus far, from 56. Mm-hmm. Your thoughts on this game? Look, the Defenders controlled this game from opening kick. What else can you say?
Manny Wilkins looked like somebody who works in the kitchen, like a cook who was upset and stuck his hand in the pack of glizzies and threw them at his manager, because that's how he played. He was that bad. Cole Johnson just took his hand, put him in the pack of glizzies, and threw him in his manager's face. Like, that's how he played in this game. It was absolutely terrible. Delete! Pack of glizzies to the face, to the point.
Let's get ready to rumble!
And then what happens? You upset the defense of the DC Defenders. You do not smack a manager in the face with a pack of glizzies. It's not the right thing to do. It's not prudent. Don't smack somebody in the face with a pack of glizzies. So then what happens? Sam Kiss, and Michael, I can't say his last name right now, Willie Drew. They all come together to intercept you not once, not twice, but 3 times. When you throw moonballs up in the air right to somebody and it's broad daylight and the lights beaming off the football and it's right there in their hands, you're gonna catch the mother father and you're gonna take it back for a few yards. And that's what happened. Willie Drew Jr. gets his first career interception, takes it back, happy for him. He's a local guy here as I'm on the East Coast in the state of Virginia. He's local here, happy for him doing what he did in that game. But the rest of them, when it comes to having the glizzies thrown in the manager's face, you got to do something about it. And that's what happened. Both teams came in here undefeated, 2-0. But when you insult the other team by smacking the manager in the face with a pack of glizzies, this is a metaphor. This is not realistic. This didn't happen, okay? This is what it looked like out on the field. Redemption for the glizzy smacker. And that's exactly what happened in my mind when watching this game. So, looking at this, DC on the road in St. Louis, and a packed stadium, by the way, because St. Louis, the best stadium of all in the UFL as far as attendance.
By far.
Yes, by far. As far as that, as far as the fans, the fan experience, that's why the UFL is hosting the championship game in St. Louis this year for 2025, and they announced it last week, which during the live stream that I did, one of the two that I did, I can't remember which one, was when they announced it, and I was able to discuss that live on the air, which was pretty cool. So, besides the quarterback playing bad, the only real bright spot we can really look at for the Battlehawks from this past weekend is the fact that Rodrigo Blankenship, one of the very few people who wear goggles in a sport, when you look at Kareem and you look at the others who did it before him, like, he's rocking those goggles and they're working because he can see 20/20 with those things. Went 3 of 3 for the day with a field goal of 56 yards, like Cole said, was the longest in the UFL for the season. So big for him for doing what he did, representing those out there with the goggles. Big for what the DC Defenders did, though, on the other side. When you look at the production from Ty Scott, 85 yards from just 3 receptions and a touchdown was big for the offense. But the big thing, too, I would say, is that Jordan Ta'amu got lucky with the amount of turnovers that he had, Cole, because looking at that, he had 20 incompletions on the day and threw 2 interceptions. Usually the type of numbers that he had as a quarterback on that day are a recipe for a disaster, and are usually a recipe for a big old, fat old, stinking nasty, no good old. Also, the concerns with, one of my grand champs of the week from the past couple weeks, Jacob Sailors, who had 3 touchdowns recently in a game, was held to 7 carries for 1 yard. The defense of the DC Defenders, which has been big for them and a reason why they are 3-0 this year, and, big reason why, we listed the stats that we did, had their way with the offensive line of the Battlehawks. It doesn't matter who you had at quarterback back there, whether it was A.J. McCarron from before, Manny Wilkins, the number 1 free agent that has been the hype of the NFL offseason for Aaron Rodgers, the quarterback. It doesn't matter who you had back there. They were all going to be bad behind this Battlehawks offensive line. So when you take a look at it for what it is, it's not going to get any better until you can have an answer for the defensive line that's going against you, like the DC Defenders. And it's, I would say, the big factor that came from this Battlehawks game against the DC Defenders. They got exposed. And that's going to be a recipe that the rest of the league is going to go after for the rest of this year, which could hurt the Battlehawks' chances if they even make it to the playoffs, let alone with the winning record by the end of this 10-game season that each team has. So for a lot of things that I saw, big, great play by the offense of the DC Defenders. But it won't keep wins on the board for this team if Jordan Ta'amu keeps playing at the level that he did in this past week. And I don't even blame his 2 turnovers on the defense of the Battlehawks. That was quarterback play for his 2 turnovers. However, for Manny Wilkins, not only was it bad reads on his end, but it was great defensive play on the other side by the DC defenders because of the pressure that they put on him. There wasn't as much pressure on Ta'amu as there was on Manny Wilkins in this game. So for that, the recipes are all right there for success for other teams to have against the Battlehawks for the rest of the year. But the defenders are going to be a problem as far as the defense going up against any offense, I think, for the remainder of this year, because none of the other 7 teams outside of the defenders, when it comes to their offenses going against their defenses, really, really scare me if I'm the defensive coordinator of the DC defenders. And it's looking like a great year ahead for that defense, I just got to say.
I think it's time for us to say it. For the first 3 weeks of this season, the best unit in all the UFL is the defenders defense team. What the defenders are doing on defense, there isn't any other unit, and you can try to put forth the other 15, or if you want to add the special teams, the other 23. There isn't a unit to me that is better. There's an side of the ball that's better than the defenders' defense. And it's like they know how to tailor how to stop a team with what you offensively do best, and that is a scary thing. Because 2 weeks ago they had a game where they had 8 sacks. They didn't really wow you with the sacks, but they did get the pressure and they got the picks, and they got the pressure, and they got the picks, and they basically were saying, that game that you all had in Houston, Battlehawks, where you had a good amount of yards on the ground, you're not going to have it here. That's scary. And I agree with you. I think the defenders going forward, they're going to be the team to beat if that defense holds up the way it's been holding up. Whew, man. Well, they improved to 3-0 emphatically, I may add. The Battlehawks, unfortunately, they take that home L and they drop to 2-1. But cheer, Battlehawks.
Is it safe to say, though, for the defenders when it comes to how they've played throughout this 2025 season so far in comparison to how they were before, that they...
I think I got my swagger back. Oh.
Oh, they got plenty of swagger. There's no question about it. Because that defense is rolling. Woo, man. And now we are at the game of week 3 of the 2025 UFL season. It was in Detroit, or Detroit, between the Michigan Panthers and the visiting San Antonio Brahmas. Now, the Brahmas have been hard on their luck the first 2 weeks. It just seemed as though they couldn't get anything right. And, well, they still didn't get this game right at the end. But they at least gave the Panthers a game. And it was somewhat of a seesaw back and forth affair. For the most part, the Brahmas, I won't say controlled, but the Brahmas seemed to get the better of the Panthers in the first half. But the Panthers got the better of the Brahmas in the second half. But the Brahmas did make this a game. It was 23 apiece before the Panthers decided to walk off with the field goal, making the final score 26-23. Pretty good game, at least from the scoreboard. Now, from the stats, Bryce Perkins, 17-23, 193 yards, and a Jordan Williams INT. He also carried the ball 10 times for 30 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. On defense, on the Panthers, Fraginda, 5 solo tackles. And you had BT Potter, who did his thing with his leg. He did miss a field goal, but he was 2 of 3 from field goal range. Kellen Mond, who was doing some really nasty numbers, and I don't mean that in a good way. He actually rebounded and did decent. I won't say he did great. He did decent. Definitely the best game of the year so far for him. 19 to 31, 153 yards and a touchdown. He did not turn the ball over. He also had 6 carries for 38 yards. On defense, Jordan Williams, he had that pick, as I mentioned. And then Donald DeLahaye, 3 of 4 from field goal range. He almost tried to equal that of one Rodrigo Blankenship. He was 1 yard short. His long was from 55. Your thoughts on the Panthers improving to 2-1, making it a game of it against the Brahmas?
Well, they did this with two defenses playing in this game that just didn't live up to great expectations. They were not playing at the level, and that's why you saw both teams give up 20-plus points in this game. It just wasn't an all-around great performance from the defense from either team, and that's why you had one team score 26 in the Panthers and the other in the Brahmas score 23. It was a better performance by Kellen Mond as a whole for the Brahmas. You have to say, considering the first 2 weeks, like you had said, his numbers were just downright nasty. And, I was throwing a good amount of shade, towards his performance the first 2 weeks, and deservingly so. And for that, I have to at least give him a little bit more praise this week because he did a better job in comparison to what he had done previously. I got to say, he did have a QBR of 84.3 this week. So for that, I give him a little bit more of a break than the first 2 weeks. Now, the offensive line does need to work on it a little bit because even though they were able to help a few running backs get a decent amount of yards, you had McFarland get 54 yards on 7 carries, averaging 7.7 per run. You had Mond, the quarterback, get averaging 6.5 per run on 6 carries. So it wasn't an overall horrible performance as far as the offense goes for the Brahmas, and I at least wanted to touch base on that, and a lot of that has to do with the type of defense they were going against. Wade Phillips has to keep this in the back of his mind right now as, you look at what just happened over there in Memphis, and, of course, we'll touch more about that here in a little bit, but you think about how things went there, he might not be far behind, and this is sad thinking about the fact that he just led a team to the UFL championship last year, representing the XFL conference. Okay. So when I put all that together, it's pretty sad when you think about the decorated career that Wade Phillips has had, as a head coach, as a defensive coordinator. He's got a Super Bowl ring with the Broncos from over a decade ago as a defensive coordinator. Like, he's put in his work and deserves to see the fruits of his labor, especially at the twilight of his career, because you can't imagine him being out there by the year 2030 on the sidelines coaching football. At his age, it's just not, I just don't think it's feasible at that time for him. And, you got to think about quality of life and stuff. And right now, when you have a team that's 0-3, I guarantee you at this point, April 18th, going into week 4, he's thinking I can't coach a team that's winless for a 10-game season. If this team loses this upcoming weekend, I don't doubt that he's far behind Wisenhunt. I don't think he's going to even get to the 0-5 potential, or even to see it if they don't get the win this upcoming weekend. And I think that this loss from the Panthers pushes him closer to that. And it's sad when you think about how close they were to winning this game against the Panthers on the road. They could easily be 1-2 right now, but the play from their quarterback is the reason why they lost those first 2 games. I can't fully put the blame on their quarterback for this loss right here, though. This is more of a defensive reasoning for why they lost this game, because the amount of points they gave up. When you look at Bryce Perkins, this is very similar to the first game we talked about with the Stallions. Didn't put up the type of numbers of a quarterback that leads an offense to victory, except for the fact that he had two red zone touchdowns. Okay, if it wasn't for his 2 red zone touchdowns, he had 10 carries for 30 yards. Okay, when you take away the 2 touchdowns that he ran in the red zone, the rest of that is irrelevant because of the amount of times he ran the ball. And yes, he only had 6 incompletions if you want to look at the stats, but it's not about the stats, as you can't look at it all analytical. based on not just the numbers, but the footage that you see on your TV screen, this was a more defensive letdown by both teams rather than the offenses doing stellar things to lead their team over the hump. The offenses just benefited from both defenses playing underwhelmingly, and that's why it got down to the wire with a close score, and the Panthers won it the way that they did. It was the game of the week by far as the outcome with the closeness of the game, because you look at the Renegades and the Stallions, lackluster 10-9. You look at the Roughnecks and the Showboats. Of course, we're not putting the Dumpster Pelican Bowl in the game of the week. So the next best thing is a Panthers game that we've been putting some hype on the Panthers for the past couple of years now, and the Brahmas just made the UFL championship. Just because they are 0-3 now doesn't mean they're an absolute terrible team. However, I am concerned about Wade Phillips and his future as the head coach of this team, because if they lose a fourth consecutive game to start the first month 0-4, I just don't see him putting himself in the potential line to even go 0-5. He goes 0-4. I think he hands in his notice next week too.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that too. And that's a thought process I really did not want to think early on in this season, to actually possibly see the literal end of the road for a wonderful defense coordinator and a tested, battled, and successful, at least in the UFL, head coach. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but we have come to that possibility. But yeah, I agree with you. Will we see Wade Phillips coaching in 2030? No, I don't think we are. I don't think we are either. So that means the Panthers, they improved to 2-1. The Brahmas, unfortunately, they fall to 0-3, as my wonderful partner said. And that concludes not just the game of the week, but it also concludes opening drive. And we shall return right after this.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989. On two. Ready? Quick!
We're just getting started. Total Football Talk will return right after this. Whether it's news, the largest egg producer finds bird flu in chickens at a Texas plant, weather, devastating tornadoes rip through the heart of the United States, inspiration, a breast cancer survivor completed the journey of chemotherapy and now begins a future one of matrimony, or sports. Michael Jordan is shown on a photo with Diddy. LeBron James has a video extolling the virtues of a Diddy party. This has been yet another beating a dead horse presentation. We got you covered. BS3 Network, in association with Comey Media Incorporated, proudly present The Morning Shift with Cole Johnson. Live every weekday at 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central. Hey, Eagles fan. Join my man Cool McCain and a host of others as they break down every single game, every single week in an objective manner, and also from a fan's perspective as well. Remember, this cast feels just like you. Nobody likes you. And you don't care. Fly, Eagles, fly. Eagles Elite Podcast, every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on YouTube and other podcast outlets.
Everything Boston. I love you morons. New Kids from the Block, New Edition.
Dear whatever the law firm is. Sincerely, the U.S. Supreme Court.
Ben Affleck, Matt Damon. Go yourself again, Jason Whitlock.
Where my dogs at? It is time once again for Grand Champ of the Week. It's a wonderful part of the program that we award the best of the best in the previous week. And for his Grand Champ, Drew, the floor is yours, sir.
Well, thank you, my brother. As we have some great champs that we have to talk about this week, and they both come from an impactful game that we just discussed moments ago. But I'm going to start off mine, someone from a great impactful defense, somebody who's pretty local to an HBCU college that I'm familiar with, and that is from Virginia State. Willie Drew Jr. from Smithfield has 2 tackles and 1 interception, his first career interception in this game for the DC Defenders. 1 of 3 interceptions from that defense on the day that helped the Defenders win 27-15. For that, my Grand Champ of the Week is Willie Drew Jr.
Nice choice.
Thank you.
Nice choice. I 100% agree with that. Let me see. So, yes, you mentioned, Drew, thank you for mentioning it, that our choice for Grand Champ actually comes from the same team. It actually comes from the same side of the ball, too. And in the 80 episodes that we've done this, and we've done most of this together, we've never had one where it was the same team or someone on the same team.
Nope.
Well, in a total football talk first, here it is. You picked a Defender's defender, and I also picked a Defender's defender. I had to go with Andre Mincy, and he's been on my radar just ever since the season began. But oh my gosh, I mean, he what didn't he do in the game against the Battlehawks? He was outstanding. 2 sacks, 2 tackles for losses, 2 forced fumbles, and a fumble recovery. I mean, this man was all over the field, and he's what you'd like to have in a linebacker, where you'd say, look, just do what you do best. Heck, you don't have to schematically do anything. Just do what you do best. And so far, he, to me, has been the best player in the league. Forget best defender. And defense player of the year, to me, right now, almost is a runaway with him, to me. To me, the MVP of the league is him. And if he keeps these stats up, more than likely he will get that award. But yeah, he has impressed me a lot. And he, to me, is one of the biggest reasons why the Defenders defensively are a unit that you just simply cannot take for granted. Number 48 will be game planned a lot harder as the season goes along. And don't be surprised if people try to run or throw in his direction or throw away from him, because they have to block him away from the play. The way he's been going, it's been wonderful. Yeah, Andre Mincy, also the Defenders, you deserve it, sir. Along with Willie Drew Jr., you deserve it as well. Both of you wonderful Grand Champs this week. I have no complaints. No
great pick, and I hands down agree with he should be in the conversation for MVP of the league right now, week 3, because, of course, it's several weeks later in the NFL because it's a longer season because it's 17 games. They play 18 weeks.
Right.
But because of how short the UFL season is, I don't think that we should not we should not discuss this early on, because they're at like a third of the way through the season almost, especially with the fourth game coming up. So looking at it for what it is, you have to discuss him as the top part of the league, especially from defensive impact, because you could argue that without his presence, the defenders might not be undefeated at this point, for one. Okay. But at the top of the league for two, regardless, even if they are 2-1 at this point, there's a lot of things that could be different with the trajectory of the UFL and that conference and that team of the DC Defenders without your man, Mr. Mincy. So great pick with that. I just felt like I couldn't leave Willie Drew Jr. out, because I was contemplating some different people, as my choice for the grand champ of the week this week. And then, of course, like a lot of times I like to let you go first just to make sure we don't pick the same person, because I've got multiple different people I'm thinking at the same time. And when you said him, I was like, oh, that's a great choice because of his impact for the DC Defenders over the past 3 games. But then when I thought about Willie Drew Jr., I was like, I know this is going to be the first time in 80 episodes that we did this, okay? But we just have to, because of his impact on the game as well. They had multiple players that played a big role on that DC Defenders defense.
Yes.
And luckily, there was enough to go around to where you and I both got to choose a player from that side.
Oh yeah. And he had one of the key moments of the game with his pick. So yeah, I couldn't hate on that if I tried. Yeah. Impact player for Willie Drew, impact player for Andre Mincy, no question. I love your choice a lot. And for me with Mincy, it was more along the lines of, he had a great game, but I'm like, man, I keep seeing his name come up. I just keep seeing his name. But well, you all out there, who do you think played the best, and who is the one who deserves to be the grand champ of the week for you? Well, you can just type in the chat or below the description box, and you can tell us what you believe is the grand champ.
Oh yeah.
Well, welcome back to Total Football Talk with Drew Willingham. I'm Cole Johnson. Before we do continue onward, we definitely want to greet the folks who decided to regale us with their commentary, which actually has been relatively on point. Melvin, it's a great pleasure to see you again, and both of us agree with you about your comment about the Renegades. Yes, I believe they underperformed last week as well, and hopefully they can turn this around. Because I loved how they defensively look, but that offense has to come up with them, and that offense has sort of tailed off after week 1, and hopefully they can fix that. Sick, what's up? Everything's good with us. I hope everything's good with you. He says, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, good evening to you, sir. He joins us all the way from Norway. He says, hey, it looks like this Good Friday has simply gotten a whole lot better. Yes, for those that don't know, this is Holy Week. This is Good Friday. Easter or Resurrection Sunday is around the corner. So,
but you know what else has been great about this week, Cole? It's so far from the start of the week to now, we haven't had to see this guy on TV.
Okay.
It's been great.
Yes, it's been great. Unfortunately, we'll be seeing him tomorrow night. He says, yeah, this past week, but I agree with you. Yes, it's been great to not see or hear from him this past week.
We have WrestleMania and UFL tomorrow, so there's no reason for us to even watch the man known as
okay. Thank the Lord for that. Six said, yeah, this past week it saw one game as Battle of the Winless, while another game was Battle of the Undefeated, which is true. He said, look, he said, as he said the week before, the defenders hung tough the whole while and waited for the right moment to make it count, which they did. The Battlehouse offense, he said, just didn't wake up until it was too late. He said, look, not to knock folks for using goggles in football, but you would think with the technology of this century, they would have already had prescription visors instead. Well, yeah, probably true, but yeah, You know how sometimes people just want to have throwback looks? We see this more in baseball than any other sport, really. Uh, Sort of have that throwback traditional look to sort of reflect um, a mentality. And I think basically that I think with the goggles, I think that's basically what it is. It's sort of like a throwback type of thing. He also warns the defenders, says, "All right, let's put all cards on the table. Fair warning for the DC defenders. You may be undefeated at the week 3, but now it's not the time to rest on your laurels." And all they had to do to me is circle 2 places: Jordan Tamu and the running game. They can't rest on their laurels because Tamu is uneven in his performance and has been all season long thus far. And they have not gotten that running game going because they got to protect that defense. Otherwise, it's going to. And I really didn't want to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. The possibility of what happened last year could happen again this year, where the defenders, they were strong and they actually looked like they had everything all put together, and all of a sudden the bottom fell out. And they have the prescription where the bottom could fall out, for the exception of, I think the defense is playing a little more cohesive as a unit this year than last. But what could hurt them is the production of the offense not protecting that defense. And that has to happen. So I don't think they're going to rest their laurels, because Tomlin has to become a whole lot more efficient and and protect the ball a whole lot better. And they got to run the ball. That it's just no questions about that. No question about that. He also said the Browns came to play, but they have room for improvement. And look, Kellen Mond, we have not been the biggest fan of his. He actually had the best game of the year for himself and did pretty well. Now, can he continue to not turn the ball over and actually lead his team to victory and be a little more efficient? That'd be the next step. He can hopefully it can happen. Ryan McCarthy, one no credentials required fame personality, and a wonderful friend of ours. He says, "Good afternoon, TFT Tribal Chiefs." Good afternoon to you, sir. Oh, along with WrestleMania, along with the NHL, NBA playoffs beginning, the Stanley Cup playoffs begin on Saturday. That is correct, sir. And congratulations to your Devils. They are there. Hopefully, they are one of the last 16. Let's see if they can be the last team standing holding Lord Stanley's Cup. He also said about the goggles. Eric Dickerson, he wore goggles, and it's a single season rushing king of the NFL. Yes. And he wore goggles long before he was an NFL player. He actually wore goggles in high school. But way back when he was in Sealy. Ooh. Six says, look, a fair point, Cole. Some players want to play with the spirit of Eric Dickerson by using goggles. And I think that's what it is. It's just a mentality type of thing. I'm sure with Drew, he wants to. Well, no, Drew actually has something with on his own person where it's a throwback. He has a tattoo that's dedicated to a bygone era. So yeah, we just have we have that. We have that feeling of, well, we want to have the tie into the past and bring that to us in our mentality to the present. And I think that's what those goggles are, and it's cool. It's cool. Oh, I'm sorry. I was just talking all throughout that. Your thoughts, sir?
Oh, no, you're good. I was saying, and also due to strategic positioning of my camera, I'm also wearing a throwback jersey at this point, due to something I'll be saying in the post game as well. But you cannot see it due to strategic positioning of my chair and camera in said office. Now, right here now, when it comes to the great things that you said, I definitely agree wholeheartedly with all that. Definitely some great comments in here, with Mr. McCoffey joining us. Definitely great as always to have him out here. Wish I could have made his invitation for tomorrow, and I apologize for that. With the weekend of what we're celebrating, and just the things that are going on within it, it's tough for me to make it happen this weekend. Cole's on the road. I'm local doing stuff, but definitely I wanted to say, at least while you're in the comments, we appreciate the invitation. Hope to make it happen soon, because It's always a
Definitely.
great time to get up with you guys, even though no,
Mhm.
no credentials required, or even if it's the three of us here just talking football and just stuff in general. There's a lot of great conversation that comes out of it, but a lot of great stuff is going to be happening between not only football, but professional wrestling this weekend and
Whew.
Easter. So a lot of great things happening all in one week. And there's other people out there, a selective group that participate on something else this Sunday. So looking at everything for what it is, for the date of the calendar that people have circled, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Those people are celebrating that too. It is a gigantic weekend. This is like the biggest weekend outside the Super Bowl so far in 2020.
Yeah. 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 It's great. Great time. Great time to be a sports fan in general. Oh, yeah. And oh, by the way, the NFL draft, that's next weekend. So great times ahead. Oh, but yeah, we were going to talk about more things. We'll talk about those more things right now. All right, welcome to the Grind Scoop, where we talk about the ins and outs of all things football, whether it's UFL or CFL or NFL or whatever professional football brings to our doorstep. And unfortunately, we have to start with this news. One, Ken Whisenhunt, former offense coordinator of many teams and head coach of a few NFL teams, and the head coach of the UFL's Memphis Showboats. Now you have to put former in front of it. He has resigned as the head coach of the team, and they announced this on Wednesday. Offensive line coach Jim Turner will replace him during the duration of the rest of the season. Now, Winston had this to say as a statement towards his retirement. Quote, "The time has come for me to step away from the game and take a break from football. I am so grateful for my time with the players and wish them the best." Close quote. Now, my question to you about Mr. Whisenhunt's stepping down as the Showboats head coach: how will this team proceed from here?
I don't think they improve based on how they've played. It's not Wisenhunt's fault that
No,
this team played the
I
way
agree.
they did. He tried his best to get what he could out of them, and
Mhm.
there were some plays here where you could see his influence as far as play calling, but just the team just wasn't receptive to it. I don't want to say that his style has the game has evolved so far, so fast that that his style of offensive play calling isn't the same as what it once was. What I will say is that this team just doesn't have it collectively as a whole, and this is all three phases: offense, defense, special teams, all together. They just don't have what it takes consistently to win football games right now. Now, can they in the future? Of course, with the right decision making by a general manager, by the right culture set in place by the head coach. Yes. I don't think it was anything that was a culture related issue with Ken Whisenhunt as a coach. I just think that the team itself wasn't constructed for Ken Whisenhunt type of football, and he tried his best. It's not his fault that the type of non-success that they had and the results that came. Yes, of course, he's going to take the blame because he's the head coach and sit up there and take all responsibility for a team starting out the way they did and the way that they had played previously. But with all that being said, at least give the man his flowers for what he's contributed to the game of professional football as a former professional tight end for several seasons in the NFL. Even played for my franchise that I'm a beloved fan of, the former Redskins, the Slur, as Cole calls them. He played for them for 2 seasons. Yes, I was in Huggies, but I know how to use the internet, so I know that he played for them and then played for another couple of years for the Jets afterwards. His contributions to the game of football, not only as a player, but as a coach, will not be forgotten. So congratulations to him on his retirement. It just sucks that he didn't get to have some type of success on the way out, at least to the stature of what Wade Phillips did like last year with leading a team to the championship game, at least to get that far. And for that, I feel bad for him, but for his contributions to the game of professional football, congratulations to him for a lengthy career.
Yeah, unfortunately, I hate to say those types of things. In terms of, I guess you could say he's a professional football lifer, and you would like to see that continue. But yeah, I mean, he contributed to a lot of teams, like you said, both as a player and as a coach. And yeah, hopefully he can enjoy what he has put forth and his legacy he's happy about, and he can live with that. Well, now, what does this mean for the Showboats going forward? On my end, I agree with you. I don't think the team will improve all that much, and I don't think it was Winston Hunt who made them bad in the first place. Normally, you're dealt bad hands, and unfortunately, that was the case. He was dealt a bad hand. He tried the best he could, and unfortunately, it just wasn't. It just could not happen for him, and it couldn't happen for the team. And well, hopefully they grow, and hopefully he grows and enjoys life. That's really all you can say about that. Now, from a person who is retired to a person that we all pray, I pray actually does retire. Four-time NFL MVP Aaron Rodgers is still undecided about his future, and he didn't rule out the possibility of retiring. Of course, he did not, as he spoke publicly this past Thursday for the first time since being released last month by the Jets. And also on the Pat McAfee show, he decided to take the time to dump on the Jets, saying that he got invited to the facility, and 20 seconds into a conversation, they said, "We're moving on without you." Ron. That makes me smile, but I'm sorry. Professional call. Woosah. Now, he did say on the Pat McAfee show about all of that, quote, "I wasn't stringing anyone along. I wasn't holding anyone hostage. I was honest from the jump about where I was at mentally and some of the constraints I have in my life right now that warrants my attention. I'm open to anything and attached to nothing. Retirement could still be a possibility, but right now my focus has been and will continue to be on my personal life." And that's what I've told the coaches, and there's still conversations that are being had. It's all been very honest lines of communications. Close quote.
That was a lie.
I feel so bad. I feel so much better after that. My question to you: what does Rodgers gain by taking his sweet time with this decision?
Charlie. About as much as that laughter he gains, Cole Johnson, because there is not much he is going to gain when it comes to the franchise of the Pittsburgh Steelers right now. They're feeling it. Because what he's saying out there is not 1,000% true, based on reports that are out there. And of course, my sis Mia says, I gotta get up here and tell you all about it. Yes, I know exactly what you are saying when you sit up there. You got other people listening out there for you, to where now you got to come back and address it. Perfect timing, by the way, day before Pat McAfee is on WrestleMania territory, actually hosting his show live today. So that was great timing for him to show up with that. Now, what I will say is this. There are frustrated Pittsburgh Steelers fans out there that really want to know who their quarterback is going to be next year. You also got trade rumors of Pickens potentially going to the Cowboys for the number 12th overall pick in this year's draft. There's some rumors that's been going around over the past few days about Pickens potentially being shopped. So does that make Rodgers less likely to want to go to the Steelers because you don't have Metcalf and Pickens as a 1A and a 1B option as your receivers over there in Pittsburgh? I don't know, man. So looking at this for what it is, I'm a little concerned if I were a Pittsburgh Steelers fan in this moment, and I do know quite a few of them because of where we sit over here on the East Coast. So with that being said, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, you go from Kenny Pickett to Russell Wilson to Justin Fields to back to Russell Wilson to now you don't have anybody except for a man known as Mason Rudolph, who was there before, who got in a helmet match with Myles Garrett that I dubbed him a nickname that Cole and I have discussed previously on the show, but I think I'm going to give him a break at this point because at some point you can only beat a horse, but so much to where it doesn't feel genuine anymore. So I felt like I should. We gotta pause that. Oh, is that a total
Surprise, motherfucker.
Happy Friday, ladies and gentlemen? The boys awake. Now, sometimes, of course, we're gonna. But let's get it back on track now, yo.
Let me talk to you.
When it comes to this subject right here, Aaron Rodgers taking his time with the decision, I feel like it is affecting, the franchise of the Steelers. But it's more so a selfish benefit for him because when you look at the way it was broken down, of course, now the Giants have like 16 quarterbacks. They don't need Aaron Rodgers, okay? They don't need him at this time. And there's also discussions of Shedeur Sanders was working out with the Giants yesterday. Right. So with that being said, you're going to, not 16, but a fourth of that. You're going to potentially have 4 quarterbacks going into 2025 with Wilson and with Geno, and then you have Tommy Cutlets. So between the 3 of them, going home down the street to Mama's house, getting his Tommy Cutlets, okay? And then you can bring all 4 quarterbacks to Tommy Cutlets home. They can all have some cutlets together if Shedeur comes on in there. Find out the good Italian cuisine of New York, okay?
My God.
Get some great pie while you're over there, too, all right? 4 quarterbacks going on down there, y'all. All right, looking at that for what it is. When it comes back to Aaron Rodgers, you're not going to New York. Definitely not going to New Orleans because if anybody goes to New Orleans as a quarterback, I feel like outside of the Derek Carr situation, Shedeur Sanders could be potentially slipping to number 9, according to Mel Kiper Jr.'s latest mock draft. He said that he could potentially slip to 9, and the way that he described that, it does make a lot of sense. So if he goes anywhere outside of New York, which he should, because I really feel like the Giants should take Abdul Carter, Shedeur slips to the Saints. So that takes away from Aaron Rodgers going there. There's 2 suitable places. 1, we've been talking about the Steelers, of course, for what he's done. But 2 is the Minnesota Vikings because, of course, he wants to stick it to the Packers, very similar to how Favre did at the end of his career. And will he be there for 2 years like Favre? Probably not. But this is his best shot at not only sticking it to the Packers, but to leave with a ring like Elway, like Manning before him as the only 2 quarterbacks really within the past 20 years that have been able, 25, almost 30 years, literally in the entire history of the Super Bowl that have really been able to go out on top with the Super Bowl ring. He wants to be a part of that very small, select few crew. And will he be able to do that with the Steelers? Not as likely than what he would be able to do with the Vikings. So with that being said, I see him doing what he's doing to hold out for the Vikings. Very, very true and very likely, like others are saying before us on the air. So with what he's doing, with what he's trying to gain by taking his time for the decision, he's gaining potential opportunity to go to a place that he really wants to go. If JJ by June, July through OTAs and minicamp isn't quite ready to go because of his rehabilitation from his knee injury, they could say, hey, we're going to sit you down for a full year, kid. We've got an opportunity to bring in a Hall of Fame quarterback to not only help lead this team to the championship and get a Super Bowl ring, but to also help develop you for the long run. We're going to take a chance here. He's well rested, didn't get beat up during, the summer of practice, got his head straight from his personal stuff that he's got going on to help everybody get on track in his personal life. So with that, That's what the team would be potentially doing by helping Aaron Rodgers figure out the stuff in his personal life while he sits out and waits for the best opportunity. Do I feel like there's a little bit of fluff in there that you're potentially using the things outside of the game of football as a reason to hold out and wait for that great opportunity? Yes. Can I prove it? No. But I don't want to say that while throwing shade at somebody, because if I was in the position of Aaron Rodgers, I think that I probably would do the same thing too, because the way the Jets situation went was an absolute dumpster fire, Cole. You know it.
100%.
It absolutely was. So, not saying that going to Pittsburgh would be a dumpster fire, but you saw the way the media circus was with Pittsburgh last year because the two quarterbacks. You saw how the pressure that's been on Mike Tomlin for multiple years because you haven't advanced past the first round in quite some time of the playoffs when you've made. Yes, you finished with 500 or better records, and you still haven't had a losing record in the entirety of your time with the franchise, which is appealing to many great players out there. But if you're Aaron Rodgers and you're looking at that situation, and you're looking at a Minnesota Vikings team that with Sam Darnold finished with the record that they did last year, and if it wasn't for the Lions, they would have been number one in their division. They would have been number one in the NFC, potentially. And on top of that, they would have had the first round bye, and they might have gone a little bit further. We might be talking something completely different about the Vikings today. Sam Darnold, J.J. McCarthy, all that. Aaron Rodgers, had that happened, had they won that final game of the year against the Lions, we would see something different today, I think. And all of that plays into the cards that Aaron Rodgers has. If you were him today, and if any of us were in that position, I think any of us would make the decisions that he's making at this time because, you're literally at the end of the road. It's either Super Bowl or bust if you choose a team for your legacy at this point, because this will be the second team you have gone to outside of your franchise. Great legacy tenured career with the great Green Bay Packers, okay? Despite the fact you only got one championship, you still had a great career in Green Bay, okay? So with all that being said, you got to give him his flowers for that. But if he goes to another team and has lackluster success like the New York Jets 10 year and 2 years, he will hurt his legacy, and that's probably also on his mind too. So I don't necessarily blame him for what he's doing because I do the same thing too. However, if I was a fan of the Pittsburgh Steelers or the Minnesota Vikings, I would be frustrated right now because there's a lot of things being thrown around out there, dirt sheets and this and that, and you just aren't 100% sure who your quarterback's going to be in 2025. I would be a little frustrated too, but for myself as a Commies fan and you as a Texans fan, we know who our quarterback's going to be. We know the overall foundation of what our team's going to look like for the most part. We just don't know what the decision making is going to be from play to play and how the game's going to go. But we know we are at least guaranteed to watch an interesting game. It's not going to be our team playing like an absolute bunch of dumpster Pelicans for the most part. But when you don't know who your franchise leader is in the moment, like the Steelers, and you're not, even though you're saying it's J.J. McCarthy, but you're not 1,000% dedicated yet because the rumblings of Aaron Rodgers, at some point, there's going to be frustrations that boil. And I'm seeing it out of more Steelers fans now than Minnesota Vikings fans. But give it July, give it August, Cole. They could be singing a different tune.
Oh my goodness. We are now less than 2 weeks from May. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Voluntary involuntaries normally start taking place in May. So you have that, and then probably just a little bit after Memorial Day, you have OTAs. So we're talking beginning of June there. This is the time normally when teams are wanting to buckle down and say, okay, we have a general direction as to where the team is going to go and what the team's going to look like come September. And now we're basically building toward that. And then let me start around May. It is a shame that that I really fault the Vikings to a degree here because they seem to soft shoe it. They said goodbye to Sam Darnold. He signed his deal with the Seahawks. But it's like, okay, which one is it? You're going to embrace JJ McCarthy. I know he just came off of injury, but still, you're going to embrace JJ McCarthy, or do you want that one and done shot with Aaron Rodgers? Which one is it? Because you can't have it both ways. You can probably convince yourself and say, well, it'd probably be good if McCarthy sat healthily behind Aaron Rodgers, but not if you've actually told the chap back in March, well, we're going to hitch our wagon to you, and starting week 1 in the 2025 season, you're our starting quarterback. So he's preparing for this ever since March, but you come to May and it's like, a second thought, no, we had to get Aaron Rodgers here. This is one of those once in a lifetime opportunities. No, and
you can't have your cake and eat it too.
Right, and then the Steelers, they're like, we know Mason Rudolph is not the guy. He basically is the man sitting next to the man. He basically is a guy who holds a good clipboard. But the draft, okay, fine. We might strike out on Shedeur Sanders. We have a good defense. We probably can strike out with Aaron Rodgers 2025. And I probably could stand a better chance of actually doing something we haven't done in 9 years, and that's win a playoff game. Well, we have all our pieces in offense. That offensive line, it's not really conducive to a guy who's 42 years old. Pick a direction. Just pick a direction. And I think that's what I'm finding frustrating with this. And the more Aaron sits back and says, I'm so happy being me. I'm a wonderful person. Screw everything else. Everything else is secondary to me. You're screwing with other people and other teams, and you know it. And that is what's frustrating about this whole thing. This is not the first time you've done this drill. It's not even the second time you've done this drill. But should we be surprised? I mean, it's Aaron Rodgers. The dude is one of the most self-absorbed individuals in the history of the planet. Should we be surprised? I don't think so. Jeez. Now, from the past or possible past to the future. With 1 week until the NFL draft, it remains a little bit on the unclear side what position the two-way star Travis Hunter will be playing as a professional, and if he will play both sides at all. General manager of the Browns, Andrew Berry, he believes that Hunter is worth one of the top draft picks, even if he plays only one position, and compared him to, of all things, baseball star and Dodgers pitcher / hitter Shohei Ohtani to describe his value. Barry went on to say the following, quote, it's a little bit like Ohtani, where when he's playing one side, he's an outstanding player. If he's a pitcher, if he's a hitter, he's an outstanding player. You obviously have a unicorn if you use them both ways. Close quote. Well, unfortunately, Mr. Berry, you have another issue. Forget it. Forget it. I would, but I'm not going to do it. You have another issue where you have to balance something else, but I digress. My question to you, sir. Will NFL teams or the league's riggers force Travis Hunter to primarily play one position?
I don't think so. It's a lot of wear and tear to put on a player's body. And in the NFL, the players are bigger and they're faster and they hit harder. And even though there's a little bit more rules that protect players of the offense, especially the quarterback, than there were, 20 years ago, I don't think they're going to be forcing him to play primarily one position, but I do think that they will force the workload on him as far as maintaining it to their best of their abilities because of what I started off with by saying they're bigger and they're stronger and they're faster for the most part than what you saw in college. With like you said, with the league's rigors of all that, I just don't see a team forcing him to play both positions. However, forcing him to primarily play one position, I don't think they're going to force him to do that as much as they would force a workload balance. Like, all right, Travis, if you're going to play both sides, you can only play a percentage of the offensive snaps and the defensive snaps to not take a chance of injuring yourself. So, like purposeful downs, and like you won't be out there for all 4 downs or even let alone all 3, but you'll probably be out there for first down and then for third down plays, but you're going to sit in between on the second down. You're going to probably take a series off here if things didn't go as great as they should have been on the last one, so you can spend more time looking at the tablet with some plays. We go over some things with your offensive coordinator and or vice versa for defense. So also, depending on your performance of the day, if you're performing better on offense, then hey, we're going to scratch you from defense from the second half, and you're just going to primarily play offense, but we'll try it out for the first half or swap it for the second half based on the needs of the team. So I don't think they'll primarily force him to play one position. However, I think they'll primarily force a workload balance between the two if they allow him to do the two and say, hey, there's a percentage of both, but if you want to play more, you're going to have to do one or the other because we got to do what's best for the team and keep you healthy because we need you every single week. It's a 17-game long season. And if a team that's in the top 3 that's historically a bad team, unless you trade up with some good value to get that pick, more than likely that team is absolutely terrible from the jump, and you can't afford to lose a player like Travis Hunter that's being drafted that high in the draft because they value him that high. So with that being said, I'm going with a percentage of plays for both sides and a workload balance rather than a primary position because of the skills that he brings from college. But I think that it's going to be a as needed as game plan is planned per team basis, and you're not going to see the same amount of one position or the other each and every week. And there might be some weeks where you only see him on one or the other based on what they're seeing because they don't want to take a chance of him going to against the number 1 defense and getting killed. So I think there's a lot of different ways you can play around this. You can be very creative with the opportunity that you have from a multifaceted, talented athlete like him. I just don't think that you put him in one box because of the rigors of the league. I think it would just be better to balance the load out between the two so you have him for a long career and potentially a second contract rather than just one.
Man, I love that. I love that. You're making me think of something. Six says, yeah, it will be based on the needs of the team, but also the depth of the team's roster. I agree with that too. He says that Hunter will have to get in where he fits in. Also, the physical toll will take on his body. Yeah, and you said it perfectly because that was the thought I had. You're dealing with a guy who I think the measurements are 6'1" and 185. Now, I don't know about you, but I think I have a pretty good idea. You think similar along the lines as I do. A guy who is that, how can I put it in a nice manner? Thin in the behind. Or or as Eddie George said one time to Ray Lewis, lighten the A. A guy who was that diminutive in weight, playing both ways and doing 100 plays like he did in college, I don't see that. So to actually borrow the baseball analogy, I agree with you. I think I see. And I love this because I didn't think a lot along those lines until you mentioned this. with pitchers, and of course you're a huge baseball fan, with pitchers, there's a pitch count. And we've been hearing that as of late the last 15, 20 years, where normally either you want your starting pitchers to go 6 innings or 100 pitches, whichever comes first normally. I can actually see a play count with Travis Hunter. And I like that. And I also like, where we need you more in the second half, that's where you'll be playing more of. I like that too. And I think if he's in the right team and the right coaching system, I think that's exactly what's going to take place.
Because you have to be able to communicate between the offense and the defensive coordinators, between the two of the workload for one, but throughout the game, you're going to have an analytical person keeping track of that stuff to communicate between those two and all together, because you can't let the player keep track of it because he's got to focus on his game between the two sides. Right. And we haven't seen somebody play every down on a side of football really since like Michael Irvin and Jerry Rice as receivers back in the day, let alone somebody play every single down for defense for a very long time because of how conditioned you have to be to play both. And Travis Hunter's conditioning is insane. He has been a professional about the sport literally for the past 3 or 4 years. So he has got the leg up on how to even conduct himself in the NFL. With all that being said, I just think that if you have a load management, like we're talking about, a count of plays, a play count in between, you can let him play both sides as long as you have the right team around him between offense and defense, and the communication is on point. You and I are on point with this one. I think that you can do it. However, there's going to be a lot of challenges because genuinely the team that's picking you up with that higher pick is just not that good in doing any of that unless they restructured everything during the offseason like the Commanders did last year before they got Jaden Daniels. That's the reason why that marriage worked out great throughout 2024. You can only hope, but the Browns didn't do that. And the Titans didn't do that. And the Giants, the only thing that they've really got is Brian Daboll. So on the offensive side, you're okay. Defense, they still got more things to prove from their leadership over there. Which is why I would just want them to take Abdul Carter and not even think about Travis Hunter. Even if he slips 3, I would rather Travis Hunter slip to 4 rather than be in the top 3. But hey, if they've worked on how to pick up the phone and how to text and how to send emails and communicate as a team over there in Cleveland or Tennessee, which you and I both know is not the case, then go for it. But I'm concerned about where they're going, but we'll find out more next week. We'll be able to discuss more into it by next Friday's. We'll talk about.
Well, the next time we see each other, for sure.
Yes.
I wish him well. And no matter where he plays, I wish him well because he has to love the sport, and like you said, he seems to actually have the mentality and the conditioning for it too. And I actually want to see this. I do. I want to see teams say, "Look, Travis, if you think you can play both ways, fine." But yeah, I agree with you. I think they have to regulate him on how to do it, because if he were to think that he can do 100 plays a game in the NFL, no, it's to the point where, and you mentioned it. You mentioned players of like Deion Sanders and who was two-way, but he did not play every down on offense. And Michael Irvin, who basically played every down, but it was on offense. We're seeing specialty players on one side of the ball. And the only guy who probably will be on the field all the time would be the starting quarterback. We've been seeing different running backs, different wide receivers, different tight ends, and sometimes with many teams, different offensive linemen rotate. And the same thing on the opposite side, different defensive linemen rotating. Different pass rushers, unless it's the stud pass rusher, like a TJ Watt, for example. You have linebackers that rotate in and out, unless you're a stud linebacker. You have secondary members who rotate in and out, unless you're a stud secondary member. But you're seeing a lot of specialty guys who they spell the starters. It'd be unheard of to have Hunter play that many downs, 100 downs in a game, like he did in college. No, I don't see that. I don't see that. But I wish him well. I hope he does well. And man, it'd be great to see it, though. It will be. Yes, I like that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Mr. Cousins. I'm sorry, Kurt. It was no hate.
You like that? You like that?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I love old Kurt. Now, that's not all of who we have to talk about with one Mr. Hunter. We talked about it from the Browns end. Here it is from the Giants end. So if the two-way player gets drafted by the Giants, 3rd overall next week, they say he will get his wish to play both cornerback and wide receiver. Giants general manager Joe Schoen, he said this past Wednesday about that, quote, "We would not be afraid to play him on both sides of the ball." Close quote. Of course, there's been talk of some teams shooing it, saying he should play cornerback or he should play wide receiver. Now, Schoen wouldn't specify whether the Giants would emphasize one position over the other. Smart for him to do that. Instead, he noted the Giants are in a unique spot where they have 3 good wide receivers and content with their secondary. Now, that would give them options. Now, my question to you about that is the following. Should the Giants pursue Hunter at all if the Browns and Titans don't select him?
Oh, absolutely. They definitely should. And the only reason why I think that they might even have the opportunity to get him is if the Browns decide to take someone like Abdul Carter to help be, offset with Myles Garrett. And that defense would go from absolutely scary to downright nasty in a good way.
Oh, my gosh. Abdul Carter on the Browns.
Earlier. But that would be the only way I would think that the Browns would go, and it would affect this part to where he could slip, because we already have a strong feeling that Cam Ward's more than likely going to go number 1 to Tennessee because of the quarterback situation over there, for one. For two, we got to look at, what's going on with the Browns, and they're more than likely not going to take a quarterback, because I'm pretty sure that even if they wanted to take Shador, they've had those conversations and he doesn't want to go to Cleveland. Like that's what it looks like. So if you're not taking Travis Hunter because you're afraid that you're not going to be able to convince him to go one or the other, or have a good structural plan to be able to do what we discussed, in that past segment or the past discussion with this going to the Giants, if they do take Abdul Carter for the Browns and you slip here and you're Travis Hunter, and you would want to go to the Giants at this point, one, because of Brian Daboll's mind, out of the top 3 teams that are available, you will have the best recipe for success with Malik Neighbors, and potentially if Russell Wilson or Geno Smith can slide into that, slide in there and do their job. Not Geno, but, I said it earlier, but it's I'm drawing a blank right now. Jameis.
Oh, Jameis Wilson. Jameis was or Russell Wilson.
Or Russell Wilson or Tommy Cullins. Okay, it's probably not Tommy Cullins. But,
No.
You still have a decent opportunity over there to help out. But I think that more than likely, if you go to the Giants, he's going to play more defensively than he would offensively. And they would do something similar to what primetime was with the Cowboys, where, of course, he spends 75% of his time on defense, but he'll spend a few plays here and there on offense to help be a decoy or to help, Malik Neighbors be the decoy, so that way he can take a play to the house or whatever the case may be. But with the Giants pursuing Hunter, I feel like they should if the Browns or the Titans don't select him. I don't see the Titans taking Hunter number 1 overall. They'd be more than likely to trade back and get some value for the number 1 pick than they would to take Travis Hunter number 1 overall. And I just don't, unfortunately, with Abdul Carter there, I would draft Abdul Carter with the Browns over Travis Hunter
Heck yes.
because of, even though he's got the things off the field, it could affect him to slip. I would take him. Travis Hunter, yes, he's a generational talent in college, but with what you have there in leadership for the Browns, I don't believe you'd be able to get the most out of him both ways, let alone one way in Cleveland. So yes, the Giants should pursue Travis Hunter if he falls there, but I feel like the only way he falls there is if Abdul Carter goes to the Browns, and then he's available for the third overall pick. If the Browns do take Hunter, I feel like the Giants should take Abdul Carter, though, over Shadur Sanders at the same time because of the talent that Abdul Carter is and could bring to that edge position. So, with that being said, the only way Travis Hunter falls to the Giants is if Carter goes to, in my opinion. And that's just how I feel about this question. It was definitely a great question on both of them from you.
Thank you, sir. And I was just imagining what you were saying. If Abdul Carter gets drafted by the Browns, oh my gosh, yeah. Oh, that would they might vault to the most definitely the most menacing defense, or at least the most skilled for sure defense in the AFC North, and not the AFC. Oh my gosh, ooh. But yeah, I also agree with you too. Yes, won't Levis. I mean, Will Levis. He's not the guy for the Titans, and I think they do have their eyes on Cam Ward. Oh, and Sick. I can tell you right now, I've had conversations with Wise. He likes Travis Hunter, but he wants Cam Ward so bad. He can't see straight.
I don't think Cam Ward falls to 3. Though.
I don't think he falls to 3 either. And I just get the feeling that if the Browns have the opportunity to draft between Carter and Ward, they actually might pick Ward. I would actually still say they should pick Carter, in my opinion. But Hunter, though, if the Giants are going to do like what the Joe Schoen said they're going to do, I think I like Travis being in New York. If that is how it's going to be, I like that. And yes, I'm with you too. Brian Daboll, the offensive mind is bright. The defense, they got talent. They have to shore up the coaching from there. But I agree with you. I think the Giants out the 3, out the Titans, the Browns, or the Giants, whoever might pick him early. Yeah, I would be Travis Hunter and praying that he slides to 3.
And the only way that he goes to the Titans, in my opinion, the only way, which I don't see it going this way, based on what we saw last year, is if somehow Will Levis convinced management to give him yet another chance, and you bring in Travis Hunter as the generational talent to help him on offense and defense, as to where he would have a number 1 wide receiver, a true wide receiver. That'd be the only way I see Travis Hunter going number 1, as Will Levis, the politician side of him, as we would be able to say in that affirmative moment, if they convince the Titans to not draft Cam Ward and go with someone like Travis Hunter to help out with both sides, or Abdul Carter to sharpen up the defense. I don't think that Abdul Carter goes 1. But if they selected like Travis Hunter, that's the only way I see that being a possibility, is if Will Levis convinced management. And of course, they got new coaching and all that stuff over there over the past year. Right. They convinced them to give him one more chance. I just don't see it. I really think Cam Ward goes 1. And if Hunter doesn't go 2, it's Carter. And then we see Hunter number 3 to the Giants. That's just how I feel if we don't see him go to the Browns.
So we have Brian Callahan, who he got a chance to mold Joe Burrow when he was in Cincinnati as offensive coordinator. Now he has the opportunity to get his own quarterback. All signs are pointing Will Levis is not going to be the guy, unless, and I agree with him, his political game is on 10, and on a rating scale of 1 to 10. Yeah, if it's on 10, then I could see it. Outside of that, I think Cam Ward will be a Titan, and it won't be Travis Hunter. But I like that scenario too. If if Levis convinces the brass that he's the guy, then they're going to go with Hunter, and they're going to probably say, yeah, here's our number one wide receiver. Now, Will, you have no excuses. I could see them doing that too. Now, from deciding about a player for the future to a player that is now on a team. Ravens general manager Eric DeCosta was non-committal this past week when asked if he expected tight end Mark Andrews to remain on the squad. Now, this is what DeCosta had to say about one Mr. Mark Andrews. Quote, I never know what's going to happen, and I would never want to say this or that, but I can tell you this. Mark Andrews is a warrior. He played his butt off for us. Close quote. Oh, my bad. The mic is on. The 29-year-old tight end is entering the final year of his 4-year, $56 million contract, and he's coming off of one of the most frustrating seasons of his career, but more importantly, one of the most frustrating ends of a season for his career. He averaged 39.6 yards receiving per game last year. Of course, that was the worst since his rookie campaign. Now, the low point, of course, came during the 27-25. I'm having a hard time thinking about a letter. Oh, yeah, here it is. Yeah, 27-25. In the divisional round in Western New York, where he dropped a 2-point conversion, which would have tied the game with about 90 seconds remaining. And all this has led to speculation as to whether the Ravens would be open to trading Andrews during the draft. Now, my question to you is not necessarily if they're going to trade him during the draft, but it's this. Is the Ravens' hesitancy related to his tenure with the team, since he's been there since 2018, and they figure he might be long in the tooth, or is it due to Isaiah Likely's emergence?
I think it's a little bit of both. With dropping that pass in the end zone, it kind of reminded me of Super Bowl 13 when Jackie Smith dropped that touchdown, in the end zone.
Got to be the sickest man in America. Thank you, Vern Lindquist. Yeah.
Yes. And it was a tight end that did it. So
Yep. Mm-hmm.
and you think about how he was later in the career, they could be thinking, hey, this is a sign of things to come. And especially on the biggest stage that we needed him to perform on, he couldn't quite catch the ball to get that 2-point conversion to tie the game and to send it into overtime, to the point to a lot of people in their draft, well, their play in DraftKings or Fanatics or whatever, it did this to their books. And if you're a fan, yes, and if you're a fan of the Ravens, you definitely did not like that whatsoever, because it was just not, it wasn't good at all. It just... No.
Delete!
That's what you wanted to do on the season, because there was so much hype on Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry and that team going to the Super Bowl, to the point to where you kind of looked like this at the end of it.
This has been yet another beating a dead horse presentation.
And it all stemmed from that drop pass by Mark Andrews for the 2-point conversion in the mother-bothering end zone. So, for that, yes, I feel like they're hesitant with the tenure of his, with his tenure on the team, especially the end of it so far with that play. That's going to haunt him for a little bit of time. But Isaiah Likely definitely has emerged over the last couple seasons. He could be definitely the future of this team and maybe outshine what Mark Andrews has done. You look at, situations with other positions, like with the Chiefs, they had Alex Smith, and, a lot of people argued that they could have still got another good 4 or 5 years out of him, especially when you look at how quarterbacks are playing into their late 30s, early 40s, mid 40s in some cases, like Thomas Edward Patrick Brady II.
Oh, Lord, I got these allergies again. Goodness gracious. Oh, I'm sorry. Continue. Allergies. Oh,
I was waiting for it. I was waiting for it.
oh Lord. Oh yeah. Yeah. Just.
Bless you. All right, now.
Thank you. Oh, okay, good. No more allergies. Good. I'm
But
sorry.
with that being said, with other positions like feeling like they can get more time out of somebody and making the move early enough to where it puts a player in another spot to where they can have success for a while, and then getting the most out of the person who's going to step up. Even though unfortunately with Alex Smith's situation, he got hurt. We know how that went.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes, multiple time quarterback, there's a multiple time Super Bowl winning quarterback. The Ravens might feel like at this point that at least position wise, they make that move here, send Andrews somewhere else, and make Isaiah Likely the number 1 tight end, that they could do something with that team. However, a lot of successful teams have been able to utilize a 2 tight end offense. And, Mark Andrews dropping the ball in that spot was huge. I just don't think that they should define his entire tenure with the franchise, because he has made some huge plays and has come back from some hard injuries on his body to make a positive impact for this team. So, with where he's at in his career, with his age, he's not so far into his career that he's so old that you're not going to be able to get good, time out of him. He's only 29 years old. Okay. Yes, he will turn 30 in September, but look at Travis Kelce. He's in his mid 30s, still able to perform, not maybe at the level that he was in his late 20s consistently, but he's still doing things to help his team reach the Super Bowl like they did. Yes, they got absolutely demolished in that Super Bowl against a team that was stacked. But overall, when it comes to what the tight end position means to a team, it's very, very important because of what it can do to block, what it can do to receive, and even in some cases, you can even have him carry the ball and run in place. So, and have him play as a fullback. So a tight end position, because you don't have the fullback anymore, is very important because it's kind of like the hybrid position. It catches. You can put it line up as a fullback, and it can run and it can block. It can do the best of all 3 phases on an offense outside of the quarterback position. So the tight end position is very important. Yes, he's 29. He's taking a beating, but I feel like you still stick with him for another 2 or 3 years. This team is destined to win a Super Bowl within that time frame if they all stay healthy and they stay committed to winning. And if they keep the culture right within that locker room, I feel like they have a recipe for success at some point. You stick with Andrews. I think you'll be okay with not only him and Likely, but if it's a money thing, if it's a, you move him to get more capital to move around the team, I understand that too. But right now, I just don't feel like you toss him aside because he dropped 1 pass in a big game.
And that's what I'm hoping they're not doing. And when I saw this, I was like, man, I hope it's not just that 1 drop, but how I heard many Ravens fans actually assign him with that loss. And I'm thinking, man, I hope that talk has not filtered up into the Ravens brass where they're saying, well, have we come to the end of the road with Mark Andrews? He did have a not so great year. We had our moments in that divisional round game, but yeah, he was the ultimate reason why we didn't win. I hope they aren't thinking that way, because to me, if you really want my honest opinion about his role on the team, you have him. And if you did not have him, Lamar Jackson wouldn't even come close to even being an adequate passer in the pocket. Because I can't tell you, and you live closer to Baltimore than I do, and I know you've seen probably a whole lot more Ravens games than I have. I can't tell you how many times I've seen Mark Andrews bail out Lamar Jackson in the passing game. And And that was up until this past year. So the development of Lamar Jackson has been because, to me, primarily, at least in the passing game, of Mark Andrews. And I would not want them to cut bait if I were a Ravens fan. I would not want them to cut bait with Mark Andrews. And I actually love the fact that I think they should go to a 2 tight end set. Because Isaiah Likely, to me, he's become more and more of a fixture in that offense. And yes, he does things that Andrews doesn't do, but Andrews, on to flip it, he does things that Likely doesn't do either. And so I think that balance is perfect, and I think they can have them both. It's just a matter of if either one wants to break the bank with them. And we'll find that out, I think, when Likely's contract will be up. We might find it in because I don't think Andrews is going to ask for the whole bank to be given to him after next year. But I think Likely would. Not saying he's selfish, but he's playing this rookie deal. So he's want to have real money if he's contributing big time to a contending team. But I would not want the Ravens to cut bait with him. He is serviceable, and to me, I think he's too important for Lamar Jackson for them to cut bait and leave him.
Yes, you've only got Likely for one more year under that rookie deal, and Mark Andrews is under a 4-year, $56 million deal that does go through 2025. So at the end of 2025, you have to make a decision at the end of this year which one you're going to keep, if not both. And 4 years, $56 million is what Andrews got for that contract. I don't think he's going to receive anything that high if he doesn't have a stellar year this year. But if he plays to Mark Andrews' level, and this team actually wins the Super Bowl this year, then the Ravens have some big decisions to make, because it'll more likely be because the entire team was healthy. You had great resolutions from not only the quarterback with Lamar Jackson, but Derrick Henry, and you've got the 2 tight ends. You're going to have to be shelling some money out, a good amount, at the end of 2025, no matter if it is the Super Bowl that you do seek and win at that point. But your pockets are going to be burning by the end of next season there, Baltimore Ravens general management. It's happening, whether you like it or not.
Agreed. They're going to have a lot of juggling to do. Yeah, and now you mentioned that Isaiah, like, his rookie deal's up after next year. Oh yeah,
yeah. They're gonna have. He gets $3.4 million for his final year of his 4-year deal, and it's a 4-year, $56 million deal for Mark Andrews is what he has. That is at the end of 2025. They're both unrestricted free agents in 2026.
Oh, and they both UFAs. Oh man, yeah, they're gonna have a tough decision to make. Well, I pray that they don't throw the franchise tag on. Well, more often it would be thrown on Likely than it would Andrews. I hope it doesn't come to that. But you never know how this rolls. But I think that is it for the Gridiron Scoop. But we're not done. For the 2-minute drill, this is where we break down the upcoming games for the upcoming week. And of course, the slate is as follows, as you see right there. You have the Showboats and the Panthers. They'll kick off on Friday, which is 8 p.m. Eastern. All times are Eastern. Fox will carry that game. On Saturday, you will have 2 games, not 1, 2, because you have Easter. The Stallions and the Roughnecks, that's going to be the night game or the evening game on Saturday. That will take place in Houston. Fox will also have that game. ABC will carry the Saturday afternoon game, 12:30 p.m., between the Renegades and the visiting Battlehawks. And then on Sunday, you'll have the Defenders coming back home off their triumphant beatdown of the Battlehawks. And that defense, as stingy as it is, will take on the Brahmas. That will be 3 p.m. on Fox Sunday. Now, I'll begin with the game on Friday. Now, we have the Showboats. They are 0-3. The Panthers, they are 2-1. Again, 8 p.m. If you're watching this on Friday, it would be tonight. If you're watching this in the future, this would already take place, of course. But Friday night, 8 p.m., Michigan. They are 8.5-point favorites. Who do you have in this game?
Michigan is going to destroy the Memphis Showboats. It is not going to be an 18-17 contest from what we saw this past weekend with the Showboats losing to the Houston Roughnecks. They are going to be 0-4. Unfortunately, I don't see any other way. Panthers improved to 3-1, and it all happens on Fox.
I agree. I think the Panthers. Well, I'll say I don't think the Showboats have anything for the Panthers, and I do like how the Panthers have been playing. They, at least defensively, seem to play as a unit. Offensively, I think they need more going for them. And yes, I know they put up 26 points this past week, but I think they can be better. And I think they believe they can be better. And I think that's what's the most important thing. But yes, I think the Panthers will take care of the Showboats in very easy fashion.
Hey, who's giving them the business?
Now, first of two Saturday games, also ESPN and ABC will simulcast at 12:30 p.m. on Saturday. The Battlehawks and the Renegades. Both teams are 2-1. This will be taking place in the Metroplex. The Battlehawks will be a 1.5 road favorite. What do you have in this game, sir?
This one's tough because both of these two teams were 2-0 and undefeated going into last week. And one of these two teams will unfortunately be 0-2 in a 2-week span and fall to 500 after starting 2-0. It's tough for me to pick this one because I wouldn't have guessed that either one of these two teams would be at this point. Unfortunately, one of them had to be. And based on what we saw from the St. Louis Battlehawks against the DC Defenders, I'm not really confident on them at this point, even though they still have the greatest fan base and a great stadium to host a team at this point. I'm just not that confident of this team going on the road in Arlington. I hope I'm wrong and I get to sit up here and have to drink a different kind of Kool-Aid next week. But right here and now, I'm going to drink the Arlington Renegades Kool-Aid. They improved to 3-1 at home, and the Battlehawks fall to 2-2. Unfortunately, based on the play of Manny Wilkins, I'm just not confident of that offense led by him rather than A.J. McCarron of the previous years for this team.
I may have to go with you on that. Not necessarily for Manny Wilkins, although, yes, it's a precipitous drop-off from what A.J. McCarron brought to the team, without question. But to me, it's the use of Jacob Sailors not as a runner, but as a receiver. And yes, he is an important cog into that offensive wheel, but if you're not going to use it for the primary purpose that he is on this team for, that is a big problem. Now, the last time they visited Texas, they brought that running game, and that's what they would need to do to beat the Renegades. I don't think they have it in them. But I think that Renegades defense does. They have been playing pretty well all season long. Even in the L, they played wonderfully. But yeah, I don't think the Battlehawks has it in form. I think they'll fall to 2-2. I think the Renegades will improve to 3-1 and actually win as many games at home as their record actually will state. I think they'll have their third home victory.
Hey, who's giving them the business?
Now we travel from the Metroplex down to H10. Fox will carry the game, 7 p.m. The Roughnecks, bouncing buoyantly off of their victory over the Showboats in Memphis, they will take on the Stallions, who are 2-1, and they are happy with their eked out 10-9 victory over the Renegades. The Stallions are a 7.5-point road favorite. All right, who is your pick in this game, sir?
If the Roughnecks win this game, the Stallions should be absolutely ashamed of themselves. I mean, they really should. And I think the only way the Roughnecks win this game is if the Stallions like have Corral out there throwing interception after interception after interception in a very similar way that we were talking about Glizzy's being smacked in the face earlier from the Battlehawks Defenders game, okay? So when you put all that in perspective and you think about it, I'm going to go with the Stallions. There's no way they lose to the Roughnecks. And if they do, their season is absolutely over, Cole. It's over. It's over. If they lose this game to the Roughnecks. That's what I got to say, and that's my pick in this game.
Yeah, I'm with you. I could say, well, it looks like that game against the Showboats, portent of things to come, a harbinger of things to come, a great stepping stool to something greater. No, that offense is putrid. The defense is okay, but you can't have an okay offense with okay defense with an offense that is horrible. And the Stallions defensively are good enough to destroy that moribund offense of the Roughnecks, and that right there is where the game is won and lost. Stallions will improve to 3-1. I don't see the Roughnecks improving to 2-2. I think they're going to suffer another L.
Hey, who's giving them the business?
And then we have the Easter Sunday game. 3 p.m. is the kick. And it is between the Defenders, who are coming back home, 3-0, and Victors in St. Louis, to play the 0-3 Brahmas. The Defenders are 7.5-point home favorites. All right. How can the Brahmas win this game? Because I know you're picking the Defenders to clobber the Brahmas, because I am.
I want them to find a way to win this game because for reasons that I stated earlier in the show, I'm afraid that if they lose this game, we're one step closer to seeing Wade step out and not in the greatest of terms.
Not a good way, right?
So I just don't know how going against this defense because the offense of the Brahmas is not what we saw last year. Even with multiple quarterbacks in and out of the offense due to injuries last year, we still saw some consistent play out of the running backs, out of the offensive line, out of the receivers, minus Tyrone Alizé McDummy. Okay, even though with all that being said,
thank the Lord,
there's nothing that they've done that's impressed me offensively to counteract with their lackluster defensive play with what we saw last week against the Panthers. So I don't think that the Brahmas find a way to win this game. I think the Defenders win this game easily to go 4-0. Unfortunately, at home, it's their Easter present to themselves. And unfortunately, Wade Phillips, I feel like is going to still celebrate Easter, but it's going to have a sour taste in his mouth from this. And the things that I brought up earlier in the show are really going to be heavily on his mind, thinking about the holiday, spending with family, what he's giving up to coach this franchise that would have a fourth consecutive loss if they do lose this game. I just think there's a lot that hangs on the line for this Brahmas franchise from leadership on down, and it all stems from if they can find a way to win this game or not. Unfortunately, my pick is that they suffer the loss to the Defenders. Yeah,
and being as though I am a huge fan of, I've always been a huge fan of Wade. And of course, I've always been a huge fan of his father, Bum, and I've always enjoyed calling him Bum's son. So I have an affinity for him. I have an affection for him and his father. To basically see an end of another era coming soon, yeah, it personally sucks. And his legacy will be seen, and his presence will be felt when it's gone. I'm with you. I just don't want that presence to be gone now. And I would love to say, I think the Brahmas can actually pull off the biggest upset thus far in the UFL season. I just don't think with that Defenders defense it could happen. The only way I could see it happening is if they just make Jordan Ta'amu a turnover machine. That's the only way I can see it happening. Otherwise, the way that defenders defense is rolling, or I'm sorry, let me say it this way, the way the youngins say it now, the way the defenders defense is set up. Yeah, I just don't see it. I would love to see an upset, but no. Just like just like we were glad that we did not see.
Okay.
This week, we're not going to see the Brahmas win on Sunday. I wish I could say otherwise. But that is all for the 2-minute drill. But it's getting a little cold, isn't it?
Yeah. Stop those jackies. It's getting chilly. Time for snowflakes.
Yes. I know we're well into spring, but snowflake of the week is here. And like Prince said, sometimes it snows in April. But in this case, Drew, the floor is yours. Who is your snowflake of this week? And for those who don't know, snowflake is basically the worst of the worst. If you're now just following us. But Drew, who is your snowflake for this week?
Well, it was tough. Not really. Think about it. Who was absolutely terrible out here on the football field this past weekend? And I brought it up a little while ago, and I'm going to bring it up again. The glizzies to the face situation, because that's exactly what it looked like was happening out here on the field. And Manny Wilkins, 16 of 29 for completions out of attempts. Glizzies to the face. Glizzies to the face. I'm telling you. Manny Wilkins, 16 to 29 completions out of attempts, 147 passing yards, a touchdown, not one, not two, not three. Glizzies to the face interception. Oh my God. 4 rushes for 39 yards and a QBR of 41.1. Certified Dumpster Pelican Performance of the Week. Certified Glizzy Gobbler Moment of the Week. You get it right here and now, Manny Wilkins. Certified Dumpster Pelican Performance. Certified Glizzy Goblin Mother Father. That's what happened this past weekend. Manny Wilkins, I'm sorry. You are my choice for the snowflake of the week.
Oh, Manny. And I'm Coach S, and I approve this message. Manny, now I have glizzy in my head now. Lord, glizzies to the face. Goodness gracious. That's just brutal. Oh my gosh. Speaking of brutal, so we touched on this earlier. The Showboats hosted the Roughnecks. The Roughnecks have a horrible, moribund offense. They have a decent defense. The Showboats, they showed that defensively they're okay, not great, but offensively they have some pieces, but not at quarterback. One, Mr. E.J. Perry. Yes, I know you're saying, wait a minute, 13 to 20, that's a pretty good percentage. That's 65% percentage rate for completions. Yes, I know. It is great. And he did it for 131 yards. He had a touchdown and 2 picks. He also had a rush for 6 yards. But that QBR is horrible. And the fact that he has not led his team the way he's supposed to lead it, not so good. And unfortunately, as bad as he played, and yes, I will put this game on him because it was only a score of 18-17. And if he played just a little bit better, the Showboats would have actually won the game. His performance, not just this past week, but the weeks prior, led Ken Whisenhunt to retire. And yes, I put it on his shoulders because he is the quintessential understanding of what the coach wants and expects out of his team. He's the leader of the team, and as the leader, he performs this way. He deserves to have the blame if it's bad, in this case, and the credit if it's good. Well, it's not good, just like his face. And speaking of glizzies to the face, Goodness gracious. Anyway, that is my choice and pick for Snowflake of the Week.
With that Eli Manning Jr. look on his face. Come on, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about right here. Look at that look. Eli Manning Jr. He is even half the number. Number 5. He's standing there ready with half the look, half that stupid look on his face, ready to rock and roll. That's half of the reason why he is the Snowflake of the Week.
Oh, my. Oh, God. Look, I love your choice, especially when you mentioned that Manny Wilkins was wearing glizzies to the face. That pretty much was Sunday on the cherry on the Sunday. Wonderful job, sir. Wonderful job, sir.
Between that and that look on his face, we have some great picks this week. I'm gonna have fun cutting this up for some shorts this weekend.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, sir. Goodness gracious. This was beautiful. Oh my goodness.
As long as it's one.
We love doing this with you guys. Unfortunately, though, we have come to that time of the show where we have to deliver our post game. This is where we deliver the final thoughts of the week that was, and possibly even throw you some Easter eggs. Saw what I did there. As for the things to come. And for his final thoughts or his post game, Drew, the floor is yours, sir.
Man, episode 80 was definitely a blast today. I mean, the fact that I got to click this button multiple times. Because many things within the episode definitely did that for me. The fact that we had a whole week up to this point without having to see on the TV has been absolutely exhilarating. It has been great. Okay. It was a little bit of a difficult start to the week, though, to not have the Monday routine with Cole. I've been so embedded with that for so long. It was a little bit different considering, podcasting schedule, but this has definitely been a breath of fresh air. Hopefully my energy has definitely been a little bit at a higher level, even though I still do, in my opinion, a decent job of bringing it, in the morning episodes. But here and now for the afternoon, this was definitely fun. I do have a special announcement to make for today, for this weekend, that I guess you can say qualifies for me to click on this.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if you hear me. You might be able to hear me as I scream into the background.
And I can stop screaming right now because the music is done playing. And we aren't talking about this.
This has been yet another Beating a Dead Horse presentation.
We gotta pause that because we got some cool stuff to talk about. It's Wrestle Mother Father and Mania weekend, okay? We have SmackDown tonight as we are live tonight. We have WrestleMania Night 1 tomorrow, and we have WrestleMania Night 2 on Easter Sunday. And for that, your boy is making a special appearance on our guy Corey Mann's podcast, The Grind, tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern Time on Sertoba Media. It will be episode 26 of The Grind, WrestleMania Night 1 and Night 2 preview. You will see tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. The first 25 episodes are on Sertoba Media, but this is the first time that I have been a guest on the show. It's been an honor, joy, and privilege to be able to work with Corey in the past, to have him on the platform known as Sertoba Media, and to have another great graphic with that long, luscious set of locks and that championship in that bottom left corner, because your boy right here hasn't had a haircut since And look, Cole Johnson, I'm almost there. I'm like a third of the way there right now. The hair is growing. It's right there. It's showing. And it's ready to catch up to that and the championship. And I'm going to go to the other room of the house. And I'm going to grab that championship, Cole Johnson. And it's going to be on my shoulder with the big gold belt. I'm going to walk into this episode with not one, but 2 championships, okay? And be able to click some buttons as we will be live. I will be hyped, not only to talk wrestling, not only to have the championship belt on the air again, but to be here with my man with 2 ends, Corey Man, getting it done out here talking wrestling on the streams and be able to get up once again to do something when it comes to podcasting and creativity. But with this show right here, 80 episodes, man. Like, let's get back to the task of what we normally do at the end. 80 episodes are now about in the books. Cole brought it up earlier, the first time in history that we had a selection for a grand champ from the same team. That was pretty cool for us to cover what we did. I feel like the energy that we brought, the stuff that we brought as far as the topics, even though it's always great, we were on a different level today than we have been of previous episodes, and it felt great to be able to do this at this time and to be this alive with you guys on an afternoon episode once again. For that, I'm forever grateful for Cole for having us for 80 episodes, to be one step closer to 100, which we should hit by the start of the 2025 NFL season. We wouldn't be able to do it without you guys watching throughout the platforms that we have it on, whether it's YouTube or X that are live or rebroadcast to the several different platforms that we have with the shorts and everything else with the other platforms out there. With all you on social media, this wouldn't be possible without you. I know things have been a slow build and a slow start as we've been moving things around, and the numbers, consistency is the key, and we're trying to find the good time. But right here, today's Friday, you made it a good time for us. And for those of you watching in the rebroadcast or watching the replay, as you could say, thank you very much for tuning in and taking the time to watch this product. Hopefully, we didn't let you down with the cover. So, with all that being said, I'll take my post game to at least thank you guys, to give you guys a little bit of news with what's coming for this upcoming weekend. WrestleMania coverage. You got football, usually the play-by-play I've been doing over the past couple of weekends. I'll at least touch up on this too. I've been doing play-by-play. Last week I did 2 games instead of 1 because I had a feeling I wouldn't be doing it this weekend because of everything mentioned, and I was correct. Between today's episode with Cole and the wrestling show tomorrow, this is going to be it for me for the weekend. So when it comes to the play-by-play, we'll see you next week. But for this, for the post game and everything we talked about, thank you all for taking the time to listen to me and to my shenanigery out here in these streams. Got to turn that mic on, my man.
Oh, God. So
there, I've been there.
Yeah, I figured it was going to happen to me eventually. But no, I'm glad to hear that that you're going to be doing some WrestleMania coverage. I know, because we're both huge wrestling fans, so this weekend is huge for both of us. Yes, it's WrestleMania 41 will be out in Vegas. Well, WWE is already out in Vegas now. That's where SmackDown will take place tonight, and Raw will take place there Monday too. So yeah, that's going to be great, and I'm happy for both you and Corey.
Thank you. We appreciate it, and we look forward to bringing you our predictions for the whole event and some shenanigery along the way too.
I'm looking forward to that too. Oh man, cool. Thank you, sir. I remember I was traveling to Oklahoma City. This is about 15 years ago, and I did this so I could actually record music, right? So it was it was an okay day. I mean, the weather was fine, and I had to drive from Houston all the way to Oklahoma City. And for those who are unaware, that's like about a 6-ish hour drive. So I got there, had to stay there for about 3 days. And so when I got there, it was on a Thursday. And I was pretty much just to myself uh, that whole while. So I went to the studio, I recorded some stuff. And then afterwards, I got out of the studio. And then it dawned on me as I was driving down I-35. I was like, oh, wait a minute. The draft is on. Oh, let me find my way to a bar. Oh, well, then I probably tried to find a bar, found one, and found one right in time for the first pick to be made. And I laugh at that memory because it is a special time of the year, the NFL draft. And I'm so glad that now we get a chance to see different cities host it. I remember having to actually go on a what we sort of call it like a second honeymoon type of trip with my wife to San Diego, while unfortunately the draft was actually here in Nashville. And everybody looked like they were having a fun time in Broadway. And I just remember seeing that because I would think that would be me. I would act a fool, would not care about anybody else, but of course the team that the team that I vote for, root for in the Texans to draft. But of course I would want to see who was going where and be all engrossed in stories of the players that were coming out of college, and see some of the stupidity that sometimes come from the draft. And yes, I am looking at you. Because we can hear all of you say those things, you being a Cowboys fan, but one of the times when we don't hear "Are you still them boys" is when Gerald picks another pick that just doesn't quite fit the bill of the team that is presently constituted. He did that then, and he's going to do that next week. And I'm going to have this bright, wide smile on my face. So will my partner and brother, considering that he's a fan of the Commanders, and he does not want to see the Cowboys shine either. But back to the NFL draft memories. So my birthday is around the draft. So whenever the draft would come around, I would feel invigorated because it's like, okay, this is the time of year that I feel good. Because with the drafts around, my birthday's around, I can have a big time celebration. Yes. And I love what the draft provides. It's supposed to be the end of one chapter and the beginning of a new chapter. And besides wrestling, I think this is the closest thing that we have, in my opinion, to a male soap opera. Follow me here. So we get engrossed in a person's journey. We see if that person gets righted or wronged. We see if a pick is picked too soon, or like in Aaron Rodgers' case, the pick doesn't happen until later in the first round. And we get engrossed in these stories, and we follow the path of these draft picks and draftees, and we get engrossed in their story. Well, doesn't that sound soap opera-ish? Where it's like, oh, that's kind of cool. I love to see this guy succeed. I love to see this guy go to this team. Or if, of course, if if you're a Commanders fan like Drew, or if you're a Texans fan like me, I'll put it in my camp. Like if the Titans were to continuously bomb in the draft, I'll have a wide, bright, big smile on my face. Because that also plays a part to it. Oh, they said they're going to improve their team. They ain't doing jack. It's wonderful. Well, anyway, the NFL draft is a wonderful time of year, and I think it's one of the most underrated times of the year, especially for football fans and for sports fans, because yes, the Stanley Cup playoffs are underway. The NBA playoffs will be underway. We now have the UFL, and now the latest it's ever been. Will be on the heels of WrestleMania. So we have all these wonderful things that took place in April. Oh no, by the way, yes, the ending of March Madness, culminating in the Final Four, already took place earlier in the month. So we have all of these wonderful good things that happen in the early part of the month, and then we have the capper with the NFL draft. Well, I hope all of you get the people that you want to have on your team to improve it. I hope you have a wonderful time in celebrating it. And I pray for Cowboys fan that you pray that Gerald takes his hands off the steering wheel and hands it to somebody more capable to pick whomever is going to be on the Dallas Cowboys. But if not, you could be happy with him saying, we're going to go to the Super Bowl. You know that. We're going to Super Bowl this year. And not even come close. And we'll be saying that come October.
As long as it's one. It's great. I love it. I hope it actually is recording. Listening to it.
Your thoughts, sir?
Anything with Gerald, and you get to hear anything with the Cowboys, any type of shade, definitely brings joy to my heart. Not a tear to my eye, but joy to my heart. Okay.
Good.
That was a great way to end it. Of course, you definitely brings a smile to Commanders fan. But another thing I will add to kind of throw a little bit of what cherry on top to what you were saying, that the Commanders fans are excited about another thing that could potentially be announced this upcoming Monday when it comes to the budget for Washington, D.C. for the upcoming 2026 year. Because if a stadium is going to break ground at the RFK site beginning in 2026 or at any point in 2026 to try to have it completed by the year 2030 as planned by Commanders management, the money and the funding from Washington, D.C. to give towards that, which is a predicted $850 million amount, which will be paid in installments over the years to come between now and 2030, would have to be approved because the budget for the first quarter of 2026 has to be announced by next Monday. So, if you are a Commanders fan and hoping that the site at RFK rebuilds a new modern stadium, you are excited about the news that could break this upcoming week, this upcoming Monday. Whether it happens or not, Commanders fans will know. For Cole Johnson.
Mm-hmm. Oh my, yes, I love it. So I've been sort of having like a half an eye toward that. I've been hearing rumblings of a new stadium. They didn't know where they wanted to put it. They thought it was going to be, well, no, of course, this was when Poison Man was running was owning the team. That they was going to put it near Dulles. Then there was going to be this expansive shopping park in Arlington, which for those who are unaware of the area, Arlington is basically like right across the river, the Potomac River, from Washington, D.C., going south. I've heard those two things. And then I heard they wanted to build on top of the RFK lot with this new stadium. So I'm like, I'm thinking that would be something that I think Commanders fan would really like. Maybe for the exception of traffic, but still, I think that's something they would like. The fact the team would be back in D.C. and on the old grounds of RK, I think they would love that I think people would love that even better. That is awesome, man.
Yeah, there's like a prediction for, the way the layout's for is for the stadium and like a bunch of things to do around it. So you'd have like hotels and apartments or something. It's like a whole village. So it's like 100, I think it's like 180 acres or something like that, 180 plus acres. So it's huge news for Commanders Nation. But if it's actually going to break ground in 2026, you will know by next week.
Wow. So it could break ground as early as next year. So that would
If
probably mean that. Oh, go ahead.
they'd have to come, they'd have to have an agreement, even though they haven't announced it publicly. They'd have to have an agreement in place in order for, because I mean, they want a stadium to be built by 2030 because the current lease at FedEx ends in 2027. So they would have to probably extend that for another 2, potentially 3 seasons in order to secure a place between now and if that is built by 2030, or they wanted to be in there by the 2030 season. Josh Harris has said publicly. So if that happens, it takes about 4 to 5 good years to build something like what we've seen, like SoFi in Los Angeles. And then, with what we've seen with, Allegiant Stadium and the stadiums of modern build. So to build something nice is not, Rome wasn't built in a day. So if you're going to get it built by 2030, you kind of do need to break ground by the beginning of 2026. And with them announcing what the upcoming year's budget will be, even though they've cut $400 million from their budget because of Congress, there's a lot that goes into, there's a lot of politics, more political stuff that goes into this whole thing with this one NFL franchise than any other franchise in the league.
Not even a question.
That's
By far.
Fight behind it. And the government has to put $850 million into it when they've already got a bunch of cuts. There's a lot of stuff that's going into it. So that's why this upcoming Monday's news is big. We've got a big weekend in sports with, professional wrestling, with football. And then, of course, with the news is upcoming week with that. So, and then let alone the holiday itself. So there's a lot to look forward to this weekend in sports.
Yeah. Yeah. And yes, I agree with you. That I think that's you hit the nail on the head to me as to why I was saying, wait a minute. So you mean tell me they actually could break ground next year and we could actually have a stadium built and they could complete it by, they could not for the 2029 season, but they could complete it by 2029. And I'm thinking, wait, and it'd be in DC. I'm like, wait a minute, this is DC. I'm like, I'm hearing, I'm waiting for the red tape that Josh Harris's group has to hop over and cut through, and I'm not hearing that. I'm like, what happened? I'm happy, but I'm surprised. I'm like, wow, this is good. This is really good. And yes, I agree with you. There's a lot of bureaucracy, no matter the team, when it comes to building stadiums. But there's other teams, and there's teams that reside in Washington D.C., and it's a different ball game when it comes to that.
There's also a lot of concerns that go into that too, with safety. With the way the old RFK site, is set up, there's not really much set up with safety and safe things to do around the stadium. But it's also not like in the middle of the woods like FedEx Field is,
right,
in PG County. So.
Right.
With all that being said, there's a lot of room that they have to grow with this, and they have to do it right. But the designs and the, I would say the, what is it when you have something, the prototype is what I would say for what they have developed for it. Looks fantastic. They just need to break ground, and we'll know if they will in 2026. By this upcoming week, based on what Washington, D.C.'s budget plan is, because you can't add anything to the budget once it's set. And once it's set and announced this upcoming week, that's it. So if they're going to start a stadium in 2026, we will know next week.
Well, here's to hoping that actually everything is good, because I know a lot of people, Commanders fans included, you haven't as much, but Commanders fans included, people ain't liking old FedEx, now Northwest Stadium, at all.
Yeah, I've been like quiet about it, respectful about it, because of my entry to the other side that not everybody's privileged to get to see at points. Right. So I don't want to be very critical and affect that at some point of being a potential opportunity to go back based on my scheduling availability and opportunities. Right. So with that, I just don't see myself saying things to. I've said certain things, but I've been very cautious with it the other way, which was what you touched on. So
yeah. And I wanted to point that out too. It was like, yeah, it was you've been respectful of that area, but I've heard many that have not been. And I mean, whoo! I'm like, wow, it's that bad.
That poo-poo water, man.
Yeah. But man, so hearing, yeah, and I remember hearing also the thought of, well, they have traffic issues going in and out of the stadium in Landover. Considering where RFK sits or sat, wouldn't that be exponentially worse? And if I'm not, if my geography serves me correct, RFK where it's set is not really too far from where the Commanders currently play.
No, it's like 10 minutes, if that. It's just like, because literally where PG County and where the stadium is like right over the line. Like, you know how like the line and all that set up between Virginia and Maryland and DC and all that stuff anyway.
Right.
So it's wild how it's developed anyway. So yeah, within 10 minutes you could be from Virginia to Maryland to DC. So it's literally how it goes. And RFK and FedEx sites are within that type of drive from one another.
That's what I thought.
Because we missed a turn when we went to the game last year, the Hail Mary game. The way traffic was, we kind of went one way to go around to come back because of the way the one exit was. So when we went that way, we actually ended up at the RFK site. We were there. It wasn't demolished or anything yet. So we got to do one last drive around the stadium and be like, I actually never went to RFK. So it was kind of cool. Like, I've seen pictures and seen videos, of course, at that time frame. But as a kid, I never got to go there until I was an adult going to FedEx. So I didn't get to experience that like some others in my family did. But I was also very young in the 80s and the 90s when they were having their glory years anyway. So it's not like as a toddler and stuff, I should be going to that type of event anyway. But with all that being said, it was cool to drive around and see it before they demolish it this year. But it is also good news to know that hopefully they'll have it in the budget start of next week that we'll know. And also, too, that not only will it be in the budget for a new stadium, but for life around it that includes better parking, that includes not only that, but options for something to do outside of just being there and being at the football game. And it also will attract more things like being able to host concerts and professional wrestling events. Have you ever heard of an event? WWE WrestleMania live from FedEx Field. No, it is not gonna happen. And even when you had professional wrestling around with RFK intact, there was no RFK WrestleMania or even SummerSlam that I can recall. That and you were around big back then as a fan and can recall that. There's no really like a PLE. This would be big for Washington, D.C. because you not only have professional football that you can host there, you have professional wrestling. You could do basketball if you want, which, I mean, they've got their own place with Capital One Arena. But you could do so many different things, host concerts that you get your money back for the city of D.C. for the investment from the taxes. This is a huge, huge deal for D.C.
Super Bowl.
Yes, Super Bowl too. You built the stadium they got proposed. They're hosting a Super Bowl by 2040. That's hands down. It's happening probably before 2035.
Especially
they probably will have it in the works to do that as they're building the stadium.
Yeah, especially if it's going to be covered. Oh yeah, the Super Bowl will be going to DC.
And it's supposed to, the way it's covered, it's supposed to get natural light, but the way it's covered is supposed to shield all the fans from any type of weather, hazardous weather. So if it rains, it shouldn't affect the game. It shouldn't affect the fans in the stadium or the players in general. It should be still a great experience.
Yeah, that is awesome, man. Look at you just dropping bombs. I'm loving that, man. Wow, that is awesome. Well, I'm hoping that you all could see that DC will have that in the books for next year, and so that you can actually have something to put in Commander's Graham report about. Oh yeah, the groundbreaking ceremony for the new stadium next year will be ... So I'm hoping that happens, especially for where the team is going now. The goodwill that's already been there. It's only going to get better. I'm happy for you guys. Yes, man.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Oh, Ike, what's up, brother? It is good to see you again.
Ike!
I hope everything is good with you. It is good to see you as always.
What's up there, brother? Yes, we are here. Different day and times. Thank you for taking time to be here.
Yeah, we appreciate you, man. We appreciate all of you. Not just Ike, but of course, Sick and Ryan and Melvin. It's good to see you again, Melvin.
Absolutely.
Now, if you want to reach my brother Drew, all you have to do is go into one of these wonderful social media platforms.
Go to work.
September_media at Instagram, September_media on Twitter or X, the underscore Sertoba on TikTok, and youtube.com/Sertoba Media. But the struggle is real to be awesome. Now, if you want to reach yours truly, all you have to do is go onto flowcode.com/page/host Cole Johnson. That's flowcode.com/page/host Cole Johnson. Well, we thank you for liking. We thank you for sharing. We thank you for subscribing. And we thank you for hitting that notification bell so you can catch everything, not just Total Football Talk or all things football, but you can catch all content that emanates from the Sertoba Media YouTube channel and the Coney Media YouTube channel. We both appreciate you, your patronage, and your time to watch our content. Well, for Drew Willingham, I'm Cole Johnson, here to say in parting as we always do. In life, just like a tackle, keep your head up. And always remember, you got to play until the whistle blows.
Somebody sign me up for that flow code, please, and stay safe out here in these streets. Safe travels to all during this holiday weekend. And stay safe out here in these streets.
See ya.